This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this very beautiful morning here in South Africa, where we have an absolutely glorious view of the moon this morning, and the sun is starting to rise off in the distance, so we soon will have a sunrise. Now, welcome to your sunrise safari, and my name is Lauren, and on camera today I do have Davisito. So we are going to start the car and start driving after that beautiful view of the moon. And this morning, I don't actually have any plans. So yesterday was a very quiet day on the reserve. And this morning, we're just going to go with the flow and see what we can find. Look for some tracks, look at some water points, and just see exactly what we can find. When you're diving or driving, sometimes it's better to just go with the flow and see what you find. When you make a plan, it rarely actually goes to plan. So just a reminder, we're interactive and we are live, so you are welcome to send in your comments and questions using that hashtag SafariLive. Talk to us and tell us exactly what you would like to see this morning. So last night we did go for dinner with the Wild Earth Expedition crew even. And while we were at dinner, we didn't come back that late. We probably came back about 10 p.m., which is really not that late. And right outside my doorstep was hyena tracks everywhere. Now, those tracks were not there when we were going to dinner. So within that small time frame that no one was in camp because everyone was having dinner at the lodge next door, the hyenas came. And considering the fact that we are absolutely struggling to find hyenas or the den, that is just typical. So they came to camp after all, and they obviously had a little rummage around and left their track marks in the space of time that we were having dinner. So that was really frustrating. So hopefully today, either myself or the others who are out can maybe try and keep looking for this hyena den. It is top priority on our list. Now, Jamie, as many of you know, tried very hard the other day to locate it and still to no avail. So we will keep trying. We will not give up. There's a huge team of us here, and every day that we are out, we will keep trying to locate this hyena den. So that's part of the plan for this morning, I guess. It's not completely empty, but other than that, we're just going to see exactly what happens. So we are heading down to Vuatela Waterhole first, just to see if there's anything around there. Mr. Hosanna and Mr. Tingana do enjoy hanging out there at night time. So we'll go and give that area a little scope and see if we can see any signs of these handsome men. So there are other people that want to say good morning, believe it or not. So we're going to send you right over to Toli so he can say hi to you all.
Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning. What a wonderful morning to start the day with. We have a beautiful horizon in South Africa. My name is Oli, and joining us behind the camera is still Uncle James with the best cam up job. What a great one, Malum James. We are coming to you live in the western flanks of the Kruger National Park, where Lauren is right now, but she's on the eastern side. I'm on the western side of the reserve. So for any questions or comments, you can type hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or YouTube chat stream. So I'm approaching Hukumuri's territory. Hopefully we'll find Hukumuri this morning. It's been a while since I've seen this young chap. And the Nkuhumas, I've heard that they've crossed to the other neighboring reserve, so we won't be lucky to find them this morning. So let's listen to the bush this morning before I move forward. The Cape Turtle Dove is shouting, work harder, work harder, work harder, in some few small bits. So let me proceed forward and see what I can find. Oh, I'm hearing that from FC that elephant has been to a dam camp. It's been spotted in a dam camp. So I think Lauren will be able to see that because I'm far away from the dam campsite. I'm in the southwest of the reserve where we might be able to see Hukumuri. We might be lucky this morning. Hopefully we see Hukumuri. And the weather is about 20 degrees Celsius. That's 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a little bit chilly. I'm not with my jacket today. I'm with my water bottle. Yes, I have to keep hydrated at all times. I had a short nap last night because we were eating at Vuyatela Lodge with the guests, our viewers. And I came back late, around past 10 p.m. And then I was supposed to do some other stuff, like my comprehension. And then I slept around 15 minutes before 12. But I'm up and about. And the bush is so thick, we have to rely on the birds while alarming the squirrels. Do I have a favorite big cat from Faith? Thank you, Faith, for such a question this morning. It's a beautiful question indeed. I do have a favorite big cat, which is Hosanna. Hosanna is my favorite cat, but I'm not saying I don't love the lions. I do love lions, I do love cheetahs, but Hosanna has this unique character he's giving me every time I go live with him. He's a special boy, still growing, and always naughty and up and about. He's a clown indeed. So I wish Hosanna can be in the territory forever, and I wish Tingana can protect him from Hukumuri or any other rival male. Let me stop and listen again, because, you know, around this time of the day, cats, especially the big cats, they roar or they soar before they relax. The Cape Turtle Dove is still shouting, work harder. I will work harder this morning to find cats. So while I'm listening, maybe I will hear some sawing or some roaring. Let's go to Lauren and see what she has for us.
So we came to the Vuyatela Dam and we have came across an elephant. And it's very early in the morning right now, and this elephant is just flapping and splashing and making lots of noise, drinking water, covering itself in mud, all alone here at this water hole. It's just lovely to see that in the morning. Now we are positioned at a bit of a distance. We are up on the dam wall, and this elephant is just down below us. So he's still swooshing his tail, but he's been listening. He knows that we're there. Now Now, this is most likely a lone bull, a young bull who is roaming around alone. And it's actually quite rare to see elephants at the waterhole at this time in the morning. He's squelching around in the mud. Can you hear that? There was a comment that elephants are the best, all other animals are irrelative. And yes. Yes, you can hear the sound of the elephant. So we may just go up a little bit. Just keep our eye on him. We don't want to give him a fright. It's still that sort of hour between morning and, well, evening and morning. There we go. Now you can get to see the whole water hole. Excuse the aerial there. We are looking at him from the other side. Oh, look at that. He's made quite a mess. Look at underneath his feet. He's really messed up that mud. Oh, good morning. Just gonna reposition it, but it's not the best view. And there we go, that's a much better view. Look what he's doing with his trunk. He's just resting his trunk on his tusks. I do often wonder if it is quite heavy for the elephants to sort of carry that huge trunk on their head. Daryl is asking, do elephants roll around in the mud? And yes, they do. They love it. Now, there's quite a few reasons for this, and I imagine one, for me, it's actually quite pleasurable for them because elephants have very dry skin. It doesn't produce any sweat or sebum like ours does, so it's dry, and I imagine sometimes it could probably get a little bit itchy. So it's actually really nice for the elephant to sort of roll around in the mud, scratch its skin, have a good exfoliation, and it can also dislodge any awkward parasites that are maybe sitting on the skin. It helps them cool down on really hot days. Now, it's not that hot at the moment, but on very hot days, you will see elephants all around the water holes, splashing mud, splashing water. They just generally seem to enjoy it, probably like us humans enjoy going for a bubble bath. They get real pleasure squelching about. Can you hear that? Sherman's asking, what is the lifespan of an elephant? Well, elephants are actually very long-living mammals, and the average age, and of course this will differ, but on average is around 60 years old, between 60 and 70. And the sort of cause of death in most elephants, or the natural cause of death, should I say, is actually due to their teeth. So they have 6 separate sets of molars, and they come in at different parts of their life. And the last set of molars to come in is normally around 47 years old. And this is the last set that they will have. There's no more after that. And an elephant's teeth, or set of teeth, grind... Oh, that's so wonderful. It's making a lot of noise. So the last set of teeth will eventually wear down, will grind down, and they're actually said to wear down quicker in an area like Juma here. If we are in the winter, they have to sort of substantiate themselves on more trees and branches and roughage than they do in summer, where they can have much softer, easier food because it's more green around here. If you make a comparison of that to the Mara, they actually are said to live a little bit longer because it's green most of the year round there, so the food source is different. But in general, as the tooth wears down, they're unable to feed anymore, and much older elephants will tend to, as they're getting near the end of their life, they'll tend to spend a lot more time near water holes where the vegetation seems to be softer and easier for them to eat. And eventually it will come to the time where they're no longer able to feed, and that is the most common cause of death among elephants. This elephant is very curious than us. And all the birds making a noise up ahead as well. That was the ibis going across earlier. So you can see he's still making an absolute mess of this water. Niconico viewers asking, do the trunks get tired? Now, I think that probably means, are they heavy? Does the actual organ cause, maybe the muscle itself, it's made of a lot of muscles, far more muscles than is actually in the human body itself. So yes, they do tend to rest their trunks a lot on their tusks and even on branches of trees. So I do feel they do rest it because it does get a little heavy for them. Of course, they're designed to actually hold that weight. They have a huge head. An elephant's skull is actually taller and wider than me when I sit down next to it. So yes, Niconico viewers, the elephant will get tired of holding its trunk and give it some rest sometimes. But I'm not sure if the actual organ itself gets tired. Good morning, elephant. Okay, he's actually changed his angle himself. So we are going to see if we can reverse a little bit. There was a question there from, oh, he's actually coming up. Question there from Michelle, if you could just repeat that, Nina. We're just slowly reversing to see if we can get a better angle of him. Oh, Michelle is asking about elephants being preyed on by predators. Generally no. Large elephants, of course. Now, predators mainly prey on baby elephants, and this is namely lions. So lions, especially working as a pride, will actually prey upon very young baby elephants that have maybe got a little bit separated from their herd or a little bit lost or somehow became a target of these elephants. Now, elephants in general tend to really protect their babies. It's quite a big investment for them. The mother is pregnant for around 22 months. Now that's almost 2 years, far longer than a human being. So it's a huge investment for a mother to have a calf, and they really, really go out their way to protect their babies as a herd. So the main animal that would prey upon an elephant baby would be lions. Now, another cause of death amongst elephants is other elephants, but that is not predation. That is normally fighting or all sorts of intra-species work. So the main predator, if any, would be lions that target baby elephants. Now, while we stay with this elephant for a little while, let's go across to Toli and see what he's up to.
Look what we have got, from the biggest mammal to one of the smallest birds. This is called a golden-breasted bunting. It weighs about 16 grams. That's a small size compared to what Lauren is viewing right now. Listen to that call. That's why I've held off speaking, because I really need to listen to this wonderful call that is being given to us this morning. Hopefully everyone is enjoying this call. can see it's a bunting because it has black and white stripes on his face. The bunting are easily recognized by that. It's on top of a termite mound. This might be a territorial call. Yes, Indigo Girl, this is a beautiful bird giving us a beautiful call this morning. It's called the golden-breasted bunting. You can see that the breast or the chest is gold. The back part is more brown and black. Juma has a lot of beautiful birds that can give you beautiful calls. Paula, what an interesting question. Paula wants to know, are males and females different in terms of color? No, Paula. According to my experience, I've never seen a golden-breasted bunting, male and female, being different. They are the same. Even in my book here, it shows only a male, which is looking like this, and no female. It means the male and female are the same. So what a wonderful, wonderful morning to hear such wonderful calls. And this bird has been here for quite some time. Yes, James, what a wonderful question. You want to know that are these birds endemic to Africa? I think they are only found in Africa, these birds. You won't find them outside the borders of Africa. They are our African birds. So if you need to view these birds physically, you have to travel from outside Africa to Africa, and then you'll be able to view such colorful birds. And this bird has been here for quite some time, and we are not far away from it. It means it's welcoming us this morning. You are giving us blessings. Shannon, yes, we do have robins. Robins, we do have them because I've had one this morning calling, and we have quite a lot of robins this side. So these small birds are so interesting because they will give you territorial calls. They will sometimes give you happy calls, sad calls. That's why you have to be familiar with the sound they produce, because they can make different calls. So if you know the sound or the tone of the bird, it will be simpler for you to identify the call of that particular bird. Listen to that. You want to know that what are the predators of this bird, Costa? What a wonderful question. Costa, you know, birds sometimes are vulnerable, I can say, because they survive by living in the trees and they nest in the trees, some of them, most especially the small birds. So in the trees, we know we can find the small cats. I'm talking about the caracal. I'm talking about a lot of small cats. They tend to be in the trees. So they are vulnerable to that. So they are hunted by cats, and they are being hunted by snakes. They are hunted by even other birds of prey, they can feed on these birds. So they are sometimes vulnerable, but because of their coloration, some they can blend in the bushes and in the trees. That's why they have a specific habitat to survive. But this guy, I don't think he's vulnerable at this stage because there's no bird of prey flying above. He's on a termite mound, on an open place, so it can see from a distance. This is indeed magic. What is this bird sitting on, Eva? Serge. This bird is sitting on a termite mound and it's been here. We spotted this bird on top of a termite mound, then we switched off the vehicle, but it's still here. It's giving us these beautiful calls. We are lucky this morning to spend such time with a bird calling and not from far. Can hear on the other side there's a black-headed oriole, but I can't see it. I can hear the sound. You can see the view here. That's why I've said this bird can view predator or any other thing that might put this bird in danger from far. And if you have noticed that this bird has been changing calls. Zoop, 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 zoop. Yes, I'm listening to these wonderful calls right now. So while I'm doing that, let's go to the bushwalks with the impala.
Well, good morning everybody and welcome to the bushwalk side of things. As you can see, there's two young impala boys that are having a bit of a go at one another. They are trying to kind of practice more than anything else, I would imagine, the skills that they're going to need in the next few months as we start to rapidly approach the rut season once again. Remember that in April and May, we'll start to see them kind of actually going at one another a lot more seriously in order to try and get females. Now, this particular grouping of males, well, they are still far too young probably to have any sort of hope of mating this year, but by next year, they will be starting to do so. And if they practice like this and they kind of clash horns and they wrestle with one another, that builds up a lot of strength within the neck muscles, as well as gets a technique that allows these guys to be, well, potential contenders for mating rights. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got Sebastian, and like I say, we are out on a walk. We are going to be seeing what we can find. It's a beautiful morning for walking. We had a fairly clear night, which meant that there were no rain really fell, and so the insects were around, but not nearly as in the same sort of concentrations as what we had the night before. But there should still be quite a few insects about. Yesterday there certainly was a lot of butterflies that I saw during the evening drive, and so I'm hoping we'll pick up on some of them. Then obviously out on quarantine there's always a good chance of things like elephant bulls being around, so we're going to try and see if we can find some of those. I know there's one at the dam cam area. We might go and see if we can do a nice approach and see if we can watch that bull on foot. And then other than that, well, we're just going to take it easy. We're going to see what we can find. This time of the year for me is not about covering huge amounts of distance trying to track down animals. Generally the winter time is better for that, and you're able to kind of get tracks in the winter and actually do trailing. Now in summer we're so fortunate in that we've got so much kind of in the way of little things all around us on the grasses and on the flowers and those kind of things, that it just feels nice to kind of sometimes take it slow on these walks and to try and kind of look around. That's and the fact that Seb and I are still the injured parties, and so we don't really want to stress Seb's knee too much by taking him through too much undulating terrain. And well, I can't really see very well around me, so we'll have to rely on Herbie a lot this morning. So, how is my neck? Better this morning, much better actually. It feels a lot more like normal now, so at least that spasm is slowly kind of released, and now it's just more stiff than anything else, but that'll go away fairly quickly, I would imagine, so much better in that regard. I'm certainly, like I say, feeling a lot more comfortable than I was a few days ago, so which is good news. I mean, I'm glad for it, because it was starting to get a bit irritating having to kind of constantly turn your entire body to talk to somebody. At least now I can kind of turn a little bit, and that'll be good. So hopefully it'll be gone by the next couple of days. I won't even remember that I had a problem with my neck. That would be the ideal kind of situation. But anyway, we'll persevere through it. I think now it's just about kind of stretching it out. And so Mrs. Lapwing, impala rams and the response to females in estrus, is that what causes the rutting season? Essentially, yes. So as females start to come into estrus, so male impalas are going to constantly be smelling those hormones and those pheromones that are coming through, especially from her urine as she kind of defecates. Often the males will pick that up. That starts to cause them to go into hypertestosterone mode, and they start to display to other male impalas because they're trying to now secure themselves a spot. And so they start to call in those crazy calls that you hear, and they start to chase one another around. That then fuels all the males to start coming into these testosterone-filled sort of periods, and then the rut really starts. And the females being in estrus is why they're doing it. They're trying to kind of secure themselves a group of females to be able to mate with. What's interesting though with rutting males is that even though the females being in estrus is what starts the rut, it's actually these kind of males will fight with one another so much that I think they actually amp themselves up even more, and they get more testosterone and more adrenaline flowing by the fact that they just kind of start chasing one another around. And sometimes you'll find there's not even a female present, and the boys are chasing each other and trying to assert themselves and dominate. And the amazing thing about it is that even though they dominate and they try and kind of play this whole game where they chase and they fight and all these kind of other things, the period of dominance, unlike something like a leopard or a lion, which is years, these guys will be very lucky if they make a week as a dominant male. And the reason for that is the amount of energy expended to be a dominant male impala as opposed to maybe a dominant male leopard is so much greater. These guys have to chase each other around constantly because there's always males that are trying to come in to mate with the females, and on top of that they are then mating with females as well, and so there's very little time for them actually to eat, and so their body condition gets really kind of bad very quickly, and bigger, stronger males then start to push in and they chase them out. And so there's this rapid change of dominance over female herds during the course of the rut, and that's always a good thing because it means that the genetic code within that impala herd is hugely variable, and so good for the species to have multiple males mating with the females over that very short period of time. What's also interesting is that there's not only one rut that takes place. We get kind of the main rut, which like I say is April, May, and then you get the secondary rut, which kind of goes a little bit into June, and you'll often find late lambs, and I actually saw one yesterday that is probably from that second rut. Good, we're going to carry on. We're going to see what there is and what we can find. In the meantime though, I'll send you back across to Lauren and see how she's faring this morning.
So we did leave our Ellie to just splash around and have a little bit of privacy at his mud bath, and we've just done a huge loop around Buatela Dam and Galago Pan. These are sort of hot spots of our favorite leopards, but there's not a single track in sight, and there's no leopard inside, obviously. So we've decided to spice things up a little bit and go across to the western side of the reserve. Instead of going the usual north or south, we're gonna go west and see what we can find there for a change. So I am determined not to have a quiet drive today. I'm determined that luck will come on our side now that the light is up. It is a bit tricky when we first leave camp and it's dark. Obviously you have your lights on the car and you have your spotlight, but it is just that little bit trickier to sort of get a sense of what is around. So the light is fully up now, so that gives us a much better chance of seeing what is going on around us. So please send your good vibes my way. And Toli is obviously searching for the lions. And both of us are looking for the hyenas. So it's all missions go this morning. There was a hyena spotted yesterday. I'm not sure which one it was. It was with Trishala, again on that southern boundary. So we're going to go west, check the western side for a change, and then eventually make our way south. And that is the plan for the entire drive. Sure. Oh, wow. Well spotted, David. Look at that.
Yeah, that's good.
Blue Minute is asking a question. I'm too engrossed in this absolutely stunning sunrise. You'll need to repeat that. Look at that. So we had the moon earlier and now we've got the sun. At least we delivered two wonderful things today, if nothing else. It's beautiful. Right in between those two trees there. I love a good sunrise. Are the bumps on the road man-made or what are they for? Finally got the question. Yes, they are actually man-made. And when I first came here, I originally first thought they were speed bumps. Not that you can go really fast in the reserve anyway, but I did think that they were speed bumps. But they're actually not. They're part of the drainage system that we have here for water. So they're purposely done by the team at Juma here. And obviously they do make you reduce your speed, which is good, but that is not the intent or purpose of the bumps. They are for the water drainage. So they're planned throughout the reserve and they're regularly redone. Makes it a little bit tricky when you're trying to chase after an animal, especially wild dogs, and you have a bump in the road every so often. It isn't easy, but yes, that is why they're there. So they help the water drainage of the whole entire reserve. Wow, would you look at that landscape? You know, the past week we haven't had the most glorious sunrises. There's been lots of clouds and it's been very overcast. Kirsty, it is a breathtaking sunrise. Look at that. I have a good feeling about today. We're going to find something on the western side. Okay. So let us keep driving for now. That was actually spotted by David. I hate to say I probably would have driven right past that sunrise and never even given it a second glance. So I'm glad you all enjoyed that. Sometimes it's important just to stop and have a look around. You get so focused on driving out here and finding things out here, you have to remind yourself just to stop. Crafty's asking, what is the expedition crew with Wild Earth? Oh, very interesting question. So at the minute, we have a group of around 20 people, I think. I can't remember the exact number, who are on an expedition with us. And it is the first one that we have ever done. And they are staying at the lodge next door to our Juma camp. And they are also viewers, like all yourself, who are watching. Many of them have been watching for many years, to be honest, and they have come on an expedition. So they put themselves forward to come on an expedition and join us. They have been out on game drives and they have been going on bushwalks and all sorts of things, just learning about what we do here at Juma with Wild Earth. So that is what the expedition is, and I'm sure there will be many more in the future to come. Okay. I'm gonna go this way. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Right one. We went with right. I don't see any track marks anywhere for anything. It was obviously a very quiet night last night. Oh, it looks like someone else is also looking at the sunrise. So let's go across to Tristan on bushwalk.
Well, indeed, we are doing what one should always do when you get a beautiful sunrise like this, is to just sit and admire it. So we're on top of this beautiful termite mound, and the sun kind of rising off onto the eastern side. It really is beautiful. It's such a pleasant morning. Like I say, it's not too hot yet. There's a little bit of cloud cover, and that sun is slowly starting to rise, and it really is spectacular beautiful. And it's just kind of sitting and watching this big orange sort of orb come out of the sky. The other thing about it is that it's allowed us a chance to basically see where there's some ground hornbills. So we're going to try and see if we can get them on camera for all of you guys, because they are sitting in a tree not too far from where we are. So we're going to try and see if we can actually find a sort of gap where we can get a view of them, because they a little bit flighty and a little bit skittish, and on walk we don't typically get too many nice sightings of ground hornbills, just because they are so kind of shy. So what we want to do, there's an elephant as well, so we'll go and see him a little bit later. He's moving off into the thickets. He's actually close to where the ground hornbills are. There we go. So the one has just flown now, but you'll see there's an elephant and ground hornbills in the foreground. Is basically they're sitting on a dead tree at the moment, and then from there they're going to fly off and land and start to feed. They often do this in the first sort of part of the morning, is that they'll sit up on a tree, and then as the sun starts to come up a little bit and it gets light enough, then they start to come down and they'll start actively searching for food. A lot of the reason why they don't come down too early is obviously difficult for them to see, and predators can be around, so things like lions and leopards and various other creatures that go after birds can be out and about. Also, a lot of the insects at that time are very stationary. There you can see the beautiful white wings as it flew away, should I say. And a lot of the insects at that time are not very moving and are very well hidden in camouflage. But as it starts to warm up a little bit, so you start to see a lot of movement from various insects. And that means that, and even reptiles actually, and that means that the hornbills have a really good kind of chance of finding food that they're looking for, and kind of are able to try and sort of find and gift if they are in that sort of mating period. Now we're on the tracks for this male elephant, which we can see, so it's going to be quite easy to sort of find him. But I want to try and find... Oh, he's gone off the road now. I wanted to try and find a track so I could show you the kind of nice size of it. He's not massive. What you can see actually, which is really cool here, is Seb, if you can come a little bit closer for me. We're going to just try and kind of show you guys, is that over here you've got a kind of marking which is a scrape that comes down the road, and so this is made by his trunk. But what you can see in this particular sort of trunk scrape is the fine hairs that he's got on his actual trunk have created little lines of their own. So these are all little hairs that are on an elephant's trunk. They actually have a lot more hairs than people think on the trunk itself, and they're quite bristly, and so when he drags his trunk along, so it often creates these little lines that will be kind of brought over or onto the road, and always quite a nice little track to see. The other animal that does this a lot is a hippo. A hippo has little whiskers on its mouth, and as it walks, it will often kind of leave a little sort of drag of those bristly sort of hairs on the lips, and obviously with these guys it's on the trunk itself. Diane, yes, there is always a danger of a stampeding animal. I mean, things like impalas, it's not really, and you'd have to be right in the middle, and it would have to be something like wild dogs maybe that was causing them to stampede for you to be in any sort of danger, but they'd avoid you probably. But the one that can be very dangerous, particularly on foot, is buffalo if there's lions hunting them, because they stampede and they just run. And funny enough, I've actually been caught in a buffalo stampede, which was quite interesting. I was on a walk down in Lion Sands, and we were kind of walking along, and we were actually in a big open clearing, much like sort of quarantine. Not expecting much to be happening. It had been a really quiet morning on drive. No one had really found anything. And we were walking kind of southwards towards the the Sabi River. And we kind of were going along, and all of a sudden we just heard this bellow of this buffalo, and this kind of hoof, these heavy hooves running. And out of the sort of edge of the clearing on our sort of southern side, about, I would say, maybe 100 meters from where we were came this buffalo bull and the entire Southern Pride attached to it. So there was, at that stage, I think the Southern Pride was 17 stage or something like that. So 17 lions attached to this buffalo bull, and then came the rest of the buffalo kind of piling through. And so it took some pretty quick evasive maneuvering, and we managed to get ourselves out of the way and into a better kind of area. But it was a bit of a close call, and it was funny because the one guest actually, he laid a complaint that we didn't go closer to watch the lions killing the buffalo, which was ridiculous in its own right, because he would have probably been dead, because the last thing you want to do is be in the middle of a buffalo hunt on foot. Buffalo, one, at that point, are so irritated and so angry with life that they'll probably want to squash you. And two, is you can't see where all the lions are, and you can't actually kind of predict which way anybody's going to go. As we know with hunts, they can kind of ebb and flow and go in all kinds of different directions. Needs to be very when being around. But when you hear these kind of
toxic. We have sorry, a very beautiful plant, yet is highly toxic. This is called a flame lily. So it's also called Gloriosa superba. So I stopped here to look at this beautiful plant over here. It's crawling. It's not a tree, it's not a shrub, but it's crawling. So I'm so scared and so afraid to touch it because it's highly toxic. So I'm enjoying the view of this plant, and I have a caterpillar here, but we won't be able to say it because it's here on the other side. Let me hold it. I won't disturb it that much. I will take it back to its position. Let me show you a caterpillar. Here, we have a nice looking caterpillar here. This is amazing. Getting a nice view there, Uncle? Mm-hmm. This is a nice looking, colorful caterpillar. And I wonder what it is doing there. Was it feeding on this toxic plant, or it was just walking around, passing to another tree? Maybe it was feeding there. Who knows? And you can see the colors of this caterpillar are so bright. And remember, the brighter the color, the toxic it gets. So let me take. Oh, he is moving now. And look at the pattern. Look at the forehead there. We have few black spots. This is so colorful. So sometimes some insects, they can have these bright colors, but they are not toxic. They are mimicry caterpillars or mimicry insects. They mimic the poisonous or toxic species. So that's how they survive. Oh, let me take this caterpillar back to where I found it. Hopefully you're not eating this toxic plant. Yeah, it's safe. Let me move back in the car. Can you hear that? That's a chin spot bettis. Yes. The bush is thick, and sometimes it's difficult for us to view the animals. So while I'm on my search, let's go to Tristan. He had something interesting for you.
right now. Luckily, we managed to catch this ground hornbill before it looks like it's about to take off and fly. It seems as though it's going to sit stationary for us. And I was saying that they're tricky to kind of walk up on. There it goes. Isn't that beautiful? Unfortunately, there's going to be a bush between where Seb is and where the ground hornbill is. It's going to go to the sun, Seb. Oh, wait, let's try and see if we can get the sunrise in the background of this particular bird. It should be a beautiful shot if we can get it right. I think we can if we just reposition ourselves slightly. Let's have a look. Ooh, it's going to be a bit tight. I think the sun's a bit high now. But there was kind of a view of this ground hornbill with the sun in the background. I think, Seb, if we get around this wattle... Ooh, not quite, eh? Let's try and get around the wattle quickly and see what we can get. It's all eroded here. What have you got there, Seb? Is that pretty good? Oh, there it goes into the sunset, I'm afraid. Is it going to land, hopefully, on one of the other trees? No, it's flying off, unfortunately, a little bit further past where the sunrise is. I'm afraid it would have been really nice if it had stayed in the tree, because we would have got a nice kind of backdrop for that ground hornbill, but unfortunately it has now gone. Now, I know just now we were chatting about stampedes and things, and unfortunately gremlins managed to attack here. We're going to have to go around here because they've brush packed here, so we're not going to be able to get through this section. And we were kind of talking about sort of dangers, and really the only animal, like I say, would be a buffalo. I don't think we'd need to worry about anything else. Things like impalas and the likes are so fleet-footed that generally they'll just kind of bounce past you and you wouldn't have to worry too much. Yesterday afternoon, funny enough, we had those tracks for that male leopard around twin dams, and we were having we were trying to kind of track that, and there was a herd of impala that went crazy and they actually came running straight past me, but they're so fleet-footed they can kind of move. Right, so on the note of antelopes and all things kind of horned animals and hoofed and those kind of things, it sounds like Lauren has found one of the most beautiful and biggest of the antelope that we see here.
Well, this is the first animal that we have come across since driving around. We've just been speaking about how quiet it is out here today. So we thought, you know what, we're going to share her with you all. And we have came across to kudu. And they're obviously enjoying the peace and quiet out here as well. It is lovely to actually see something moving. And these are actually quite small kudu. The females get much larger than this, with their completely disproportionate ears. They are absolutely stunning animals, and you can see how well they just blend in. I've completely lost them from my own eyesight. They've obviously stepped behind one of these bush. Oh, there you go. You can just see. And those stripes might look like they stand out, but sort of disruptive markings like this actually break up the body's outline. So it actually really helps animals to camouflage. And you wouldn't think so. But it just disrupts the shape of the animal and it makes it harder for them to be seen. Now, I think we'll travel off as they are walking off. I'm just very happy to have actually sighted an animal. Of course, we did have the elephant at the start, though, to be honest. It's just eerily quiet out here. And of course, the grass is overgrown, the bushes are overgrown, everything is just so green. So I'm trying to go as slow as possible so that we can actually see. But that was the first thing we came across, some kudu. Now, it can't be easy. Actually, I discuss this with Sebastian on a daily basis, the life of an antelope, especially an impala. Kudu get a little bit larger, so they have the advantage of size. Not all predators will go for an antelope that is so big, waterbuck also. But the life of an impala and a bushbuck, it's not an easy life out here. I think we've got some impala up ahead. Fabulous, we have some animals. To constantly be on alert out here, I often think about what it would take to be an impala. They really are true survivors. So we've got some up ahead. We're just going to round the corner and show you them. There we go. This okay? Now they're all going to run across the road right ahead of us. I love it when they do that. Perfect kind of traffic. Kathy's asking, do impala rub their horns in mud to make them look bigger? Not impala. Impala males don't do that, but the bigger antelope species do that. We have seen kudu do it, and they tend to just... It's kind of a dominant territorial thing between males. Lots of antelope species, actually, they can be very easy to get along with. They will travel in mixed herds with females and other males. You can find bachelor herds, but the minute the ladies come into estrus, it changes. It becomes a completely different story, and this is when the males can become very aggressive with each other, and their hormones their testosterone levels are obviously increasing, and they just become almost like a completely different character. And by kudu rubbing their horns in mud, they are doing that lateral presentation, which is a sort of form of dominance. I am bigger than you, I am stronger than you, my horns are bigger than you. So yes, but impala, I don't believe do that. And yeah, there's a male there right ahead, a male, and oh, that was very sweet. It went down on its forelegs first and then on its back legs. It's probably been a long night for this male impala, so it's obviously having a little bit of a rest during the day. I can't imagine they get much rest at night time, because they have to constantly be on edge and look around and see what's going on around them. Paula's asking, what is my favorite antelope? Ooh, that is a very tricky question for this time in the morning. I think I'm going to have to say impala, and I know that sounds like such a common answer, but they just remind me of the deer we have at home in Scotland. We have deer running around our back garden, and they just always remind me of that. You can see their huge eyes, almond-shaped eyes, and I just think they're absolutely stunning animals. They're really beautiful with their long legs. I'm just running through all the antelope in my mind. Yes, impala win. That's my favourite antelope. Great question. Got me thinking for this time in the morning. Okay, so we're going to drive on past these impala. There's some on the left and some on the right. We're just going to drive past them. Normally they'll sort of stare at the vehicle and look at you, but I think a lot of them have been accustomed to the vehicles, and if you drive really slowly past them, they don't normally tend to run too far. Now, February is approaching. Tomorrow or the next day. February is very soon, I know that. And February is the month where the sort of late dropping of lambs can occur. So we've got some really young ones here. Hello. Look at that face. Yes, impala are indeed the most beautiful. They are adorable. So February will be when the next sort of batch of lambs will be dropped. Child of the Universe is asking, do any marine animals rub themselves in the mud to appear big? And no, I don't believe they do. It tends to be to sort of do the whole lateral presentation, make yourself appear bigger. It tends to be a behavior that is associated with mammals. So obviously elephants do it in their own way as well. They sort of bring themselves up, put their head up and their ears out, and this is to make themselves appear bigger, which they don't actually even need to do, because obviously elephants are the biggest animals that there are anyway. And I think it is a mammal behavior. Underwater, size isn't necessarily what most animals are looking for. Good morning. I love it when they just look at you like that. It's not necessarily bigger is better when you're underwater. So, Child of the Universe, I don't believe there is any animal that rubs themselves in the mud to look bigger. There's a lot of animals that bury themselves in the sand, but not the mud. So we're going to keep driving on. At least we showed you some animals there, 2 different species of antelope. But for now, let's go across the bushwalk and see what they're up to.
Well, Well, you are looking at beautiful antelope, Lauren. We are looking at what can only be described as different types of tracks that you can use. Now, often we think about tracks and we always think about ground markings and sort of something in the sand. But a lot of the time you can actually use a lot of other things. So especially something like a bull elephant. We know that that bull elephant was at the dam earlier. You guys saw him on the dam cam, for those of you that do watch the dam cam. And what he's done is he's come up onto this marula tree and he's had a really good scratch on this tree. And basically what we've got is a mud covering the whole way up the tree. And you can see that this mud is very fresh. So if I take maybe from here, this is probably a good place. There you go. You can see that that would indicate to you that this elephant has just come here. We know that the sun is rising now, and a thin layer of mud like this is going to dry very, very, very quickly. But if it's still wet like this, you know that the area has been very, very is very, very close by to where you are. So it's always a good sign when you see this, and these are tracks that you can use as well. The other thing is that if you check around the area, sometimes they won't rub on trees like this. Sometimes they'll walk just through thickets. And if you've ever been at a mud wallow and you've seen sort of tracks for eddies and then it gets quite thick and you lose a track for them because sometimes you won't actually see the footprint, this is what you need to start looking for. Is you'll see on the ground here, there's a tree and these leaves are absolutely covered in mud as well. And so as this bull is walking along, he's depositing mud as he's going. And so this can be another way that you can track elephants, is not only from them rubbing themselves, but sometimes just their gait and their walking. While the mud is still so soft and still so wet, you'll find that it will rub off on trees, and that allows you the ability to be able to kind of follow him and find where he's gone. Now, the other interesting thing about these kind of sort of markings that you see from elephants is you can often get a lot of other animals that get attracted to this mud sort of spread, particularly when it's still wet like this. You can see there's actually a fly over there that is busy kind of sequestering the moisture out of this mud. Oh, it's just flown away now. There were some stingless bees that were also here just now that I saw bouncing around on the mud itself. In fact, there's a stingless bee now. So it's going to be quite tricky for you, but I'll try and kind of point it out. Just over, oh no, it's flown away now, but they're around on the mud itself, and basically they're collecting the moisture that is being kind of left over from the mud being sort of plastered on here, and he's done a perfect job of getting it on. And you can see he's kind of rubbed himself from back or side to side. These striations that you're seeing here, those are just the wrinkles in his skin as he's kind of been rubbing his sort of body up against the side. What is incredible though is when you look and you kind of see the height at which he's rubbing the top of his head. I'm standing here. It's probably, if you had to put if I had to jump on Seb's shoulders, then I would just be able to reach that muddy section right up at the top. So that's the sort of back of his shoulders that are busy being rubbed, and kind of his ear area and his head all the way up there. So it gives you a really nice indication of just how tall an elephant is when they're doing this, or especially a bull elephant. Really is a massive animal. I did look for some ticks and things like that on here. Often when they rub like this, you can find ticks encased in the mud, but there's no sign of those at all. And so we're going to carry on and try and track this male down and actually have a good view of him. In the meantime though, let's send you back across to Ollie, who's got a beautiful bird.
This morning is turning into birding morning. Look what we have here. This is a sunbird. Oh, it's gone. Oh, still here. This is a sunbird, which is called a white-birded sunbird. It's called a white-birded sunbird. So, let me show you this bird. It's a female. Males are more bright with green head and a white belly. Second please. Yes, we have, yes, white-bellied sunbird. Here is it on top here. What we saw is this one, and then the male is this one. And see the color difference. And these are our common residents. We normally see them every day. They have a decurved beak, which they suck nectar from a flower. Nice, beautiful birds. Okay, let's proceed. I've just had a hyena on the western side. I don't know whether Lauren has heard it. It was whooping. So I wanted to check the hyena dens. Maybe we might be lucky to see some activities there. Who knows? Let's cross our fingers. The sun is going up now, and I think it's going to be a very hot day. Oh, sorry. There's an impala there ahead of us there. Hello, boy. This guy is so fat and big. You can see the wrinkles in its neck. Look at the wrinkles on the neck there. It means he's fat. He's been feeding well these days. He's been safe. You can see the oxpecker is busy foraging around there looking for ticks. It's giving this guy a very nice grooming there. You can see the oxpecker it's sitting nicely there because they have these claws that they can grab or to make them hang or move around an animal while it's moving. So ask yourself, what kind of the claws are these birds having? Are these tiny, tiny, sharp claws? I don't know whether they feel painful to this animal, but I don't think so. And the hyena den not far from this place. That makes me feel as if the hyenas are not around here. Here's another one coming from the right. These guys are fat. I wonder, you guys are going to run away from a predator? You've been feeding well these days. And you can see the behavior is comfortable, and I don't think that they can smell danger around here. And they have to keep looking up because it's very thick. You can see the background there is thick. This bird is getting a free ride. And you can see they can tolerate each other because they are together. Their testosterone levels are low now. That's why they don't see any reason to fight. But soon there will be rutting season and they will be fighting. And you can see now what is happening here is brushing his head in the bushes. He's scratching himself. Sometimes they don't scratch. Sometimes they leave a scent. They have the glands between the eyes. So that's what they do, more especially during rutting season. They do this, not for scratching only, but for territorial reasons. Just listen around. We can hear a bird calling. That's a rattling sisticle. And earlier on we had this hundreds and hundreds of quillies. They were flying above, and you could hear the sound from far, from up there, flying. I wonder where they are heading. Hello, boy. You can see the ears. They have to be open because it's thick, as I've said here. So they have to feed and look up, feed and look up. Because if he's concentrating on feeding alone, he will die.
Nino, do we normally see birds on Impala?
Nino, yes, what a question. What a question. Oh, sorry about that. We having some comms issues. That's why I didn't hear the question. But Nino is having the question. So, Nino, yes, we normally see birds with antelopes because they feed there. And then you can see now this bird is called a red-billed oxpecker. And then we have other birds on the left-hand side there. Oh, it flew. And what I've noticed, that was a kingfisher. Yes, look at the wings. Yes, dancing. What a morning dance. It's still there, Uncle James. Yes, it's still there. Yeah. This is one of the intra-African migrants. It's only migrating within the borders of Africa. Taran, you want to know this bird's going to dance if the lions were so close? I didn't get the question right. Will they give the warning if the lions were so close? I really don't know about this one, which we're looking at right now, a kingfisher, but other birds definitely, they can give warnings when they see predators or lions. I haven't seen these birds alarming, so I will move forward and see what I will find, because we are on our way to a hyena den. And it helps sometimes to rely on the bird alarm calls during this season because it's thick, so birds can spot predators easily because they're flying above and we are moving on the ground. So sometimes it's so good to rely on them. They might not alarm for predators like cats only. They will go for birds of prey. They can also alarm for snakes. Hopefully I'll find something. I'll see cocky or plonk. I wonder if I will manage to identify plonk, because last time I saw plonk, he was still transforming from this brown color to forming spots. So now I believe the spots are all over his body. They're completely developed. Mix 10, 11 up. Oh, a bit there. This one over here is called, it was called a long-tail shrike, but it changed to magpie shrike. And magpie, I've seen all the birds that are called magpies. They are black and white in color, and this one is called a magpie shrike. You will wonder how it survives in this wild, because it has this long tail, and both male and female have long tail. So what they do is they can't easily camouflage, as we see the colors, but they will, for nesting, they will go for a thick and thorny tree to build their nest. So they use the thorns to protect themselves from the predators. We have its partner on the left there, but it's in a thick, I can see the tail only. So this bird, it has a nice call. That's the magpie shrike call. So I'm not far away from the den, the previous den. Oh, here's the partner there. Yeah, yes. So you can't differentiate between the female or the male because they look alike. And you can see the size. Oh, they're foraging around, still feeding, trying to get a nice meal there. Maybe we'll get a fat insect this morning. So, Uncle James, let's proceed and see whether we'll find something there. Hello, magpie. It's nice seeing such beautiful birds this morning. It makes my day to see birds. I'm not saying I don't like other species, but birds are one of my favorite. Going to a hyena den. Hopefully we'll see something. Tracks, nothing. So while I'm searching for Lauren's favorite animal, let's go to her and see what she has for us.
So we are still on our search for literally anything at the moment, and Tolly is obviously searching for the hyena den as well. We're all out in full force looking for this hyena den, and this is because we deeply care about these animals that we have gotten to know so well over the past few years, and they just seem to have slipped through our fingers, and it's hard and it hurts and it makes us upset. Now for me, Corky's little naughty one. Are we okay here? What are you doing? Now, this is slightly bizarre. We obviously do have a tortoise. Oh, they're mating. They were mating. That's so cool. I'm just going to try and roll forward a little bit. Wow, this is the most perfect sighting of the day. Tortoise mating. I'm lucky I saw this. Were you able to get them from here, David? That is so cool. I haven't yet seen that here. It is indeed the best way to start the day, with a little bit of love and romance. Now, they have gone into the grass. I'm not sure we're even going to be able to get another look at them. It took me a while to figure out what was going on there. Now, before I start driving, when turtles or tortoises mate, the male actually has a very curved plastron, so the belly, the underside, is actually really curved, whereas the females will be straight. And this is because the females just walk along like this. They do not need to do anything else. The males need to actually go up, like this male was doing here, and go on the female's back. So he's designed to have this curve so that he can arch and jump on the female's back like this one was doing. Are they completely gone? I can see rustling in the grass there. They're obviously having more romantic moments together. Now, that was wonderful, and one of the most amazing things about the order Testudines, which includes turtles, tortoises and terrapins, is that the female can actually store sperm from many different males in separate oviducts inside of her. So they are known to be promiscuous. They will mate with many different males, and they just collect the sperm, if you like. And it is said that they can actually choose when to fertilize. So there's lots of questions on what is the exact benefit of this. So they can obviously separate copulation, fertilization, and the laying of their eggs. They can separate the events. And there's lots of different theories, but many people think that it gives the females the genetic advantage to choose exactly which male's sperm to use in order to fertilize her eggs. Or it could just be wait until the conditions are correct in order to wait for the best time to lay her eggs when the environment is correct around her. But there has actually been a study done that I think it was around 12 different sea turtles, which are obviously very closely related to the tortoises. And a year later, the female produced another batch of eggs, another batch of fertilized eggs that was from the exact same male that she had mated with and produced a clutch of eggs a year prior. So what does that mean? Does it mean she actually met that male again in the ocean, the sort of deep blue? That's highly unlikely that she did meet him again. Turtles tend to mate and disappear. They have interactions with one another. The entire time, and obviously felt that it was very viable and very strong for her offspring. That's in traffic. That is entirely possible, that she stored it for that long and then fertilized her eggs a year later. Good morning, Impalalas. So it's a really fascinating thing that tortoises, terrapins and turtles do this sperm storage. It's obviously not something that mammals are capable of. So yay, I saw tortoises mating. I'm so happy about that. It just took me a while to figure out what was actually going on. But I got there in the end. So back to the question. I think it was Michelle, but please correct me if I'm wrong, Nina, asked me before hyenas what was my favourite animal. So before the hyenas out here in the bush, out here it really is the hyenas. I am completely biased. I don't know why. It could be Jamie's influence on us. I just think they are the most incredible, resilient and resourceful animals. I just love watching them and I love learning about them. But before coming to the bush entirely, I'm a little bit of a turtle obsessive, as many of you know. Turtle expert, I should say, not obsessive, and manta. So all my favourite animals were marine animals before coming here and getting to know the most incredible animals out here in the African bush. Now, we have reached Twin Dams. I'm just going to go up on the wall and see if there is anything around here. We also checked Treehouse to no avail. We just bumped into some mating tortoises on the way, and that is the extent of it. So here we are at Twin Dams, and look how quiet it actually is. There is not a single movement in the water. We have a question. What is the difference between a turtle and a tortoise? Well, they're in the same order. They're both part of the testudines, or some people call it chelonia. So they're very closely related. Obviously, they have their shells on the back. There's nothing going on here. I was trying to find something, but there's absolutely nothing happening. I was actually trying to find a little terrapin that was popping up in the water, but it's just not popping up. So, of course, turtles are, well, they're actually known as sea turtles, and they're completely aquatic. So you will not find a turtle living on the land. They do come on land to lay their eggs, but then they must return to the fully aquatic. To have lungs. So they breathe air, so they must come to the surface to breathe air, but other than that, they're always found in the water. Now, tortoises are a little bit different. They can survive on land, as we just saw, and water. So you can see that they walk across, and so they need to try in order to get themselves across the land while they're walking. So they have... I will continue this point later. It looks like we're going through a rough signal patch. So for now, we are going to go across to the bushwalk.
Well, we are currently looking at some tracks, as you can see, and these are always great indicators of what's actually taken place during the course of the night. Often people will see tracks and straight away they think, oh, there's going to be an animal close by. But in this case, it's quite an interesting kind of tracking lesson that we can go through. Essentially what we've got is we've got the outline here of a lioness that has walked here. So this is tracks for, looks like we've got tracks for about 6 lions. We're not sure exactly who they are. They're coming from Buffelshoek into Djuma. And you would get these tracks and you think to yourself, well, these tracks are very fresh, we're going to follow them because they're on top of vehicle tracks. But there's an indicator here that these tracks are not as fresh as one would like. Even though they're very, very smooth and there's no particles of sand on top, there is something that gives it away that these were made early last night. And that is this track over here. So if you see there and over there, there is a civet that is walked over the top of these line tracks. And so the civet is obviously a nocturnal creature. Yes, they can walk in the early hours of the morning, and even maybe, they could have walked at 5 o'clock this morning over the top of this track, and this track could have been laid down at 4:30. But the thing is that when you see this, generally it's an indication that this particular line track was earlier in the night. When we eventually followed these tracks around, we found that scrub hares also crossed this, so this must have been early last night that they walked here. And yet the track itself actually looks really clean. So if you see this track on the right side here, that's kind of no sort of tracks in it, it really looks nice and fresh. The toes are nice and crisp, edges are really good, and all the soil is compressed. And you'd think to yourself, well, this is a nice track, it's shining, should be a good track to follow. But the that's kind of close as what you would initially think, and that you're probably going to have quite a long track, unless of course they're very full. If they're full and they caught something, well, then they could be quite close by. But generally when you see this, you know that the tracks are not as fresh as you'd want it to be the other way around. If you can start to see lines on top of the civet, then you know that you're in a good place. So it's kind of probably that these lines are quite far. I mean, we're going to try and follow the tracks and see where they take us. The reason why we're going to follow these tracks is just simply because there's been no other tracks for lions called in this morning. Between Aubrey, Taxon, Lauren and Collie, there hasn't been a single track that's been called in, and so I wonder if these lions are not somewhere close by. Maybe they found the mud wallows inside the Mulwati and have laid down, because their tracks go straight down Gowrie Cut Line, cross over, and they head towards the little mud wallows that we know Hassan often lies at, and is really a kind of nice place if lions are full to have a bit of a drink and rest. And so we're going to follow the tracks through and just see if they start to cross and they kind of go over Twin Dams Road, then in all likelihood we won't find these lions just because we're so far behind them. But I'm hoping that they might have had a meal, and that means that they're now going to kind of lie down. You can also see that there is a male lion within the grouping as well. Here, his track is here. So if you have a look at the size of that track and my hand, if I put my hand over it, it's pretty much the same size as my hand at the moment. So that's an indication that there is a male in amongst them. Now, it could obviously be for the Nkuhuma male or one of the Manganes, but it looks a little bit big for them. So maybe one of the Avoca boys is following these animals around as well. But that's definitely for a male lion that's in there. Now, kill 6, have I seen a kill on foot? Well, that buffalo kill with the lions that we were talking about earlier, we eventually kind of got to a safe place and we watched the lions bring it down and kill it. I'm trying to think what else I've seen on foot. Seen leopard take a duiker on foot before. Trying to think, dogs. Funny enough, had them kill something on foot as well, which was completely random. We were actually tracking a leopard and the dogs ran past chasing an impala and brought it down right in front of us. But it's not very common to see kills on foot. Unfortunately, we disturb a lot of what's going on. So Herbie thought he heard something, so he's just asking us to kind of keep it down a bit. But, most of the time is when you're walking, all the animals kind of move about. Now here's also a nice indication as well about the lion tracks not being that fresh. You can actually see that there is this scorpion that is walked over the top as well. So this is the scorpion's feet on either side, and this is its tail that's dragging along. So this is probably in all likelihood from Opistothelmus glabrifrons, which is a scorpion that moves regularly through the night, and this is walked over the top of this line track as well. So that also gives you an indication early evening rather than sort of this morning, and very fresh tracks. So we'll try and follow them through. I mean, if you look at them on the right side here, they look very clean and fresh, but actually there's a lot going on over the top of them. So we'll just try and figure it out. There's water that's here, so I want to check here. I'm pretty sure they would have drank from here, and then from here we need to kind of just see which way they go. But my thought process is that they've probably come and drank, dropped down into the Mulwati, and either they've gone south down the Mulwati or they've gone straight over and they're heading towards where the other lions were yesterday, because this is, like I say, it looks like 6 individuals, and we know that there were 6 individuals yesterday on Arathusa, and then the rest of the Nkuhuma pride was on our side. So I think this is just a split of the Nkuhumas that's kind of moving around, maybe trying to find one another. It's always when you walk up to kind of mud wallows like the one in front of us here, it's always good just to check, because often lions will drink and then go into a bit of shade and lie down, and so we need to kind of just make 100% sure as we walk up to this pan that there's no lions kind of lying in the shade around here. Anyway, we're going to check around. We're going to see whether or not that they drank. In the meantime though, let's send you to Holly, who's in the grass and taking a little look around.
Look what I have here. I moved out of the car again because I saw this plant which is called a large devil's thorn. We have different thorns of this kind, which is a devil's thorn and a devil's thorn. So differentiate these two. You can see this flower over here. Can you see a flower, Uncle James? This one is easily recognizable by the pink lines inside this flower. And then the clone that similar like this, their flowers are more white in the inside. And they have this petals. Pinking petals. Is my audio okay? Sorry about the gremlins. So this flower and the other devil's thorn, which is not a large devil's thorn, it has a big flower than this one. So why I stopped here is because we use this at home, but now things are changing, and then technology is taking over, and some of the things, some people, they stop believing in them. What we do is we take the roots, you boil them for the whole night, and then you store them for a couple of hours to cool the infusions down. Why we do that? It's because when there's a funeral, and then when a person is dead, like a person is that person killed him or herself, or maybe she or he was involved in an accident, that person's supposed to not to be in the house before the burial takes over. Because what we do is we normally bury our loved ones on weekends, and then mostly on Saturdays. So during Saturdays, what happens is a deceased person has to be in the house a day before the funeral. So that's a Friday. What we do is that person is not allowed to come, or that coffin is not allowed to come in the yard, because the tragedy or the same tragedy will happen in future. So that person has to stay outside of the yard, and then we'll do everything outside of the yard, not in the yard, unless a person has a normal death. So what we do is on the funeral day, we go to a graveyards, and then when we come back, we go to separate rooms, the females and the males. What we do is an older person who's a male and an older person who's a female, she or he deals with that particular gender. We take off our clothes, and then we get naked. Yes, of getting naked, and then they take those infusions, they cleanse us, they wash us with those infusions. Why we do that is it's because we don't want this further tragedy. But we don't use this if there's a normal death in the family. So that's quite interesting and scary, because you have to get naked. But we go to separate rooms. It depends on the age group. If you are still a youngster or a teenager, you will go to a room where there are teenagers, but only closely related family members, not just any random guy. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry about that. And then Chantal wants to know what's the largest flower in the sands. Maybe a carrion flower, but the largest I've seen is the one I've seen yesterday, which is a morning glory. That's the largest flower I've seen. Maybe there are flowers that are larger than that, because you know this place, Sabi Sand, is big, and then we have different habitats, and then different habitats means species have to survive in different areas. There might be a smallest flower in Djuma, but in other Tuza you will find maybe a biggest flower than a morning glory. And these things, if you don't know them, like there's especially these plants, if you don't know their medicinal uses, you might think they just plants. But if you believe in them, if you are taught, or if you grew up in a family using these medicinal plants, you will know these things. You will see the necessity of having these plants in the wild. And sometimes these plants, they do work if you believe in them. But if your mind is not into these cultural things or beliefs, you won't get healed or helped, I can say. You really need to believe in what the elders are saying, then eventually that thing will happen or might happen. Because some of the people, they will tell you this is not working, that is not working. Yes, for sure. If you've used maybe something that it didn't help, and that simply means you didn't believe enough that that thing will heal you. I don't see any tracks here. Oh, we have a bird, Oh, it's gone now. So now, I'm not lucky this morning to find any cats or hyenas. Taran, you asking about morning glory flower. I'm not sure whether I get your name right.
Yes, the morning glory.
So your question is about the flower of a morning glory and the flower of the large devil thorn I was talking about. Those are two different species of plants. The morning glory has a elongated big flower like this, as long like this, and it can open big like this. And then this one I had, now it's like this small, and it grows this long. And they don't look similar. If you can take a close look, they don't look similar, these flowers. And if you can check the leaves of the flowers, they are not similar. Work harder. This Cape turtle dove has been following me all over the place. Work harder, work harder. Oh, look how large and big are these leaves over here on my right. Uncle James, can you see this? Oh, let me quickly go out. Yeah, this is so large. This is a comritum. Here, look how big is this. Look, how big is this? Very big. So what we used to do with this kind of, let me put my back so that I will get to your questions. What we did when I was still a boy, remember, I'm from a rural area, and then we didn't have like access to shops. Like we did have shops, but they were far from where I was staying. So we used to do this. Do this mask, then you have to measure or feel where your eyes, and then you have to squeeze it a little bit. And then yes, these are my eyes. And then this. Yeah. Growing up, being a teenager, you learn a lot of things. being a teenager. It's like that. Those are my arms. And then you used to do this, and then you take the bark of a silver cluster leaf. You can see you can make a twine or rope with it. So you tie over here. That's my mouth. Whew. Yes. 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 You can see the mask is complete. Yes. This is a comritum. This is, because of the large leaves, this is a large fruited. Is it the red one? What is it? Variable bush willow, which is a variable comritum. This leaf. This is my mask. It's going to my museum, a small museum. You know, what is the museum? It's a tent, a nest tent. It's going there. It's going to sit right next to muddy waters. Yes. For those of you who don't know muddy waters is, let me get in a shade there. And then I will tell you about muddy waters. And viewers are loving my mask. Yes, I'm also loving it. Oh, I was about to tell you about muddy waters, but if I get a chance, I will. Let's quickly go to Tristan. He has found the lions.
Well, there you guys can see we've managed to find what we were looking for. They're just slinking off into the thicket, so we're not going to be able to really go after them too much because it's going to be quite tricky. Now, Herbie says he's got a view on one here, so let's come along and just have a little look on this side and see if we can maybe see where the rest of the pride is. There we go, there's the rest of the pride straight through there, Seb. So it looks like possibly, I think it's the Nkuhumas. It's difficult to say. I mean, there's a young male in amongst them, and there's a couple sub-adults that I can see, but I haven't seen any big females at the moment. We thought that they might be resting up at this pan, and that's why we wanted to come here, and we literally tracked right into them, and so it was a perfect trail that we went on. It was very easy this morning. They literally walked nicely on a pathway the whole way along, and we managed to just kind of follow them through, and at the moment they're just sitting and watching us, which is absolutely amazing. Now we're going to just take this to a wider audience, so I'm just going to stop speaking for a little bit. Well, good morning everybody and welcome to South Africa. As you can see, there's some lions that are sitting over there, and the reason why it's very, very special that we're seeing lions is because, well, as you can see, we're on foot. So we're on a walk this morning, and we managed to track these lions. We found their tracks, and we trailed the lions along, and we managed to then find the lions lying down. Now, at the moment, they know that we're here, but with the distance that we're at, they seem to be fairly comfortable at this stage. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Sebastian, and remember, we are coming to you live, which means if you have any questions or comments, just post them in the comment section below, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. But being on a walk is a very special thing. Going out into the bush and to try and track animals and things like that is a very different feeling than being on a car. And so to come across, well, the apex predator out here on foot is a very special thing, especially when they just turn their heads like that and just kind of watch you and don't really worry about your presence at all. Luckily, the kind of distance that we're at is far enough that these guys don't feel threatened in any way and are quite happy for us to be here. Now, in terms of how many lions there are, from the tracks that we saw, we think that there are 6 of them. It looks like tracks for 6. There should be 2 young males in here, if it is the 6 that we're thinking, and then it looks like some sub-adult females and maybe 1 or 2 adult females in there. Difficult to know from the tracks now. The sub-adult females' tracks are pretty similar to that of the adult females within this pride. We think it's a pride called the Nkuhuma pride, which theoretically should have 12 lions in total, but there was a split, and so hopefully this is just some of those that are kind of looking around for the others. I'm quite surprised though that we found them as close to us as we did. When we first got onto the tracks weren't as fresh as we thought they would be, there were civets on top, scorpions on top, which is generally an indication that they've walked sort of midnight or before. And so they actually haven't gone too far at all, which has been very, very lucky for us. Now, Anna Marie, how close are we? I would say at this sort of distance, we maybe 40, 50 meters from where they are. Not even. 40 meters is what I would say. What do you reckon, Seb? 35, 40? Maybe not. 40 is probably what Seb and I reckon. And the problem is that when we came up this path, there really is no cover for us. We kind of spotted them and they spotted us at the same time. We came up a little bank in a drainage line, and so there was no real way to avoid where we are now. But you can see the nature of these animals is all very relaxed. If these lions were in any way threatened by our presence right now, what you would have found is most of them would have gone flat. Their ears would have pinned back against their head, and their tails would have started to flick and to start to move. And when you see that, then it's time to back away. We are obviously not going to spend too long with them, because the more we stand here, the more irritable they probably will get with us. And so we're just going to try and get a nice sighting like this and then try and move off. Kayleen, indeed they do. They are very hungry. One stood up for us just now, and she's very, very empty. And so they are hungry, which is why I'm also surprised that they didn't move further than what they did. Normally when lions are hungry, they'll pace through the night to try and find food, particularly because as we've been walking here, we found tracks for giraffe and buffalo in this area, and those are obviously animals that these guys will go after. So I am surprised that they haven't moved more because of how hungry they are, and it certainly means that tonight this pride will be looking for food. Now, it's amazing how well they blend in. So there's the two on the right that are very visible, and then on the left side of your frame there will be another couple that are kind of sitting behind a bush, and they're also kind of just watching us, but they blend in so well. When you can't see the black tip of the tail or the tip of the ears, it really is kind of incredible how well they blend in. Good. I hope that you guys enjoyed a brief glimpse of these lions. Like I said, we don't want to overstay our welcome. We don't want to stress them out in any way whatsoever. Our job was to basically track them down and to try and get one of our other vehicles in here. So if you want to carry on watching what the lions get up to, remember just to Google SafariLive. But it's been an absolute pleasure from Seb and myself, and I'm so glad that you got to join us on a very, very special experience of having lions on foot. Right, guys. Well, like I say, we're not going to overstay our welcome. I mean, the lions are falling asleep now with us here, so, it's not too much of a stress, but there are vehicles that want to come in, and obviously we're going to try and get Lauren or Lee in here. I think Lauren is coming on the side. But how special to see these guys on foot and to have a sighting of lions. It's been a long time since I've tracked lions on a bushwalk and actually found them. Generally we track them off the boundary, or we kind of just behind them all the time, but really kind of special to find them, especially when they're as relaxed as they are right now. They're literally just kind of watching us and seem very kind of happy with the fact that we're around. They're kind of panting a little bit. It is quite warm, so I'd imagine this is where they're going to rest up for the day, in the hope that animals might come towards a wallow that they've got here. But like I say, we're not going to stick around for too much longer. I don't really want to stress them out in any way whatsoever, and the job is basically done. So well done, Herbie. Herbie is smiling behind me because he managed to find the lions before me and Seb, which is always probably the case with Herbie, but well done, Herbs. Always good, buddy. Right, so we're going to back away slowly. Remember, the important thing when backing away from lions is that it's generally good to keep your eye on them. So as much as you can kind of look at them or walk away a little bit, you always try and kind of keep that you can actually see their faces and make sure that they're not kind of stalking up behind you as you're walking off. So we're going to try and kind of... And while we do that, let's send you back across to Lauren, who I think is on her way here. I'm not really sure she's got something else, but either way, I'm sure one of the guys will join the sighting soon.
So we have came down to Chitwa, and there is a beautiful elephant having a full bath in the middle of the dam, completely submerging itself. 2 seconds, Tristan is just trying to reach me. Standing by, Trist. While we're looking at this beautiful elephant, I'll find out what Tristan is after. Look at that, completely submerged. Keeps popping its trunk out ever so often as a snorkel. I'm just going to move a little bit so the vehicle beside us can get past. Standing by. So there we go. I'm still not able to find out exactly what Tristan wants, but I believe it's regarding the lions he has found. So how relaxing is this? We have a huge bloat of hippos and an elephant. Now the hippos were honking earlier, so I'm sure they're not very happy that there is an elephant present in their home. Look at it, that must be a standing up. So when it submerges itself, it obviously sort of bends its legs, maybe kneels down on the bottom. Look at that, just using its trunk to navigate through the dam. You can hear the hippos honking. I'm not sure exactly what the hippos will do if the elephant gets any closer, though. Okay, dog, this is a lovely moment that everyone should get a chance to see. Yes, the hippos are definitely not happy that the elephant is here. Welcome everybody to South Africa, where we are live at a very special waterhole, and we have an elephant swimming who is submerged inside the waterhole. So my name is Lauren and I have David on camera, and we are just currently watching this lone elephant having a wonderful bath, completely submerged in the water here. You could almost mistake it for a hippo when you just see the sort of curvature of the back there, and then you realise it's actually an elephant having a bath. It is a wonderful sighting. And you can send in your questions and comments to us about this sighting, and I will do my very best to answer it. It's been in here for quite some time now, and all surrounding is hippos. There's small congregation or bloats, that's a collective term, of hippos everywhere, and right in the middle is the elephant. And it's showing no signs of, oh, the elephant's just collapsed. It just keeps on standing and then collapsing right down into the water. It looks like it is having an absolute whale of a time, or should I say elephant of a time. It seems to be thoroughly enjoying this. This is just absolutely wonderful, magical moment. It's early in the morning here, and the sun is obviously coming up, and this elephant has just decided to take a full bath. It's probably drinking as it goes, cleaning, cooling down, just generally enjoying being in the water. It's really splashing around. Now there's lots of water holes around here, but none of them are quite as big and as deep as this one we are currently at just now. So this is why it's able to have a full bath. Nicole is asking about crocodiles going after the elephants, because there is indeed crocodiles in this water hole. Now, I think an elephant this size, a croc would not attempt to go after this elephant. This is a huge elephant. It's really practicing its front crawl here. And yeah, Nicole, I really don't think the crocs would go after an elephant of this size. There has been battles between crocodiles and hippos before. But a huge elephant, you can see now when it fully stands up on its feet that it is actually taller than the water level. So I don't think a croc would go for this elephant. But interesting question, Nicole, and there are crocs here. I'm scanning around. I don't see any at the moment, but they are present in this water hole. Alfredo's asking, can the hippos attack the elephant? I think that was your question. I've got a little bit of breakup here. There has been standoffs recorded between elephants and hippos. They're obviously both very large. Attract the elephant. No, not necessarily. The elephant is purely here to have a bath in the water hole. It's not here for any other reason. And as I was going to say there has been recorded standoffs between hippos and elephants where they both encounter one another and sort of have literally a standoff. However, there doesn't seem to be any violence on either side. The elephant will make it very clear for the hippo to go away, and the hippo will make it very clear that it's not happy, and they both will part ways. I don't believe there's any records of a elephant attacking a hippo or vice versa. However, there is records of crocodiles and hippos having quite severe encounters where a hippo has actually snapped a 3-meter croc in half. So that is about 10 feet. So they definitely have battles. But as for an elephant, this is not where the elephant normally lives, or it's not its domain. It's just coming here for a short bath, and at some point it will emerge from the water hole and go back about its day. But elephants just love water, and when they tend to be walking to a water hole, they sort of have this jaunty skip where they just are so happy to be going to a water hole. And you can see here this elephant could not be happier. It is having a wonderful time just going under the water, coming up again and splashing around. Listen to the hippos. They're so loud. And we call that the honking of the hippos. But none of them are approaching the elephant. The elephant's just enjoying itself. I'm glad you can hear the hippos because they are notorious for just honking and being incredibly loud. Wow, look at that. Now, elephants do use their trunk almost like a snorkel, if you like, that we would use a snorkel. So when they do submerge, they can just keep the tip of their trunk out of the water and use it to continue breathing the air while they're submerged. Just like a snorkel. Rebecca's asking, why is the elephant alone? Now, that is a good question. Most likely, this is a lone bull. Once elephants reach a certain age, when they're male, they are sort of ousted or they separate from the herd, and they do travel alone. Sometimes they will meet up with other males, and they will travel sort of together as a male herd. But generally, male elephants tend to be found alone. Females, on the other hand, travel in large herds with their matriarch and with the young. And many of the females in the herd will be related. So this is most likely a lone male who's just going about his day, and he's obviously decided it's bath time, morning bath time. Now, it's very, very early here. Sometimes I forget how early it is. It feels like I've been awake forever. So the sun is sort of just getting to that point, just high enough now, the heat seeping through. And the elephant obviously just felt it was the perfect time to have a bath. Now, lots happen around this water hole. The big predators also do come to this water hole to drink. And there's lots of life around here. It's never quiet here at the Chitwa water hole. Now, the hippos are a permanent feature, if you like. They're always here. They rely on the water. But elephants don't need to be submerged in the water. They're mainly doing this because it feels good for pleasure. It's enjoying being in the water. And he's obviously now playing with a tree or a branch that is in the water. So this was just an incredible moment, probably one of my most favourite sightings of elephants here at Chitwa. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your comments and questions. And continue watching us here. If you just search SafariLive on YouTube, you will find the rest of the drive. So I do hope you join us, and thank you once again. So that was just an incredible moment, wasn't it? It was definitely, well, it still is, it's still ongoing, and it definitely was something to share with everyone. I'm just going to go forward a little bit here as there is other vehicles approaching. I'm kind of in the way, just not very nice. So I'm just going to move over so they can get past. There we go, that's better. Morning. Hi. There we go, that's better. I don't want to be blocking the road for anybody here. So we're in a better position. Now, it is interesting to see the hippos haven't really bothered it. There's a huge elephant in the middle of the dam here. They were just going about their daily fighting business. Look at this. Now, this isn't actually fighting. This is more play. I think these are younger hippos who are probably testing out their yawning skills and their fighting skills, and that's exactly what they're doing here. Oh, I think the elephant's possibly going to come out of the water now. It's been in here some time. We've been here for about maybe 15 minutes now. And it's using its trunk just to continue to splash all the water over its back. Now, I've actually never seen elephants swim this early in the morning. Let me just check the time. I tend to lose track of time. It is actually 7 a.m. here, which is still quite early. Elephants tend to come swimming in the afternoon when it reaches really hot temperatures and they come to cool down. So this has just been an amazing moment. Do I think Ellies absorb water through the skin? Someone asked that question. I'll get the name repeated. Actually, their skin is really unique and it's really special. So as humans, we have sweat and we produce a sebum. So our skin's sort of always moist and moisturized, and we shed off our dead skin. Elephants actually cannot do that. I've just lost track of this elephant. Where did it go? Okay, so we're just going to reverse a bit. How can you lose track of an elephant? So elephants are not able to shed their skin. So their skin builds up and it actually becomes quite keratinized. So that's why they end up developing these wrinkles. I think it's better if I go forward, actually. And they have incredibly wrinkly skin, as we know, but it's actually more like a network of wrinkles. It's specially designed so that it can retain water and moisture from mud. So it's not absorbing through the skin, but it's held in the wrinkles, if you like, which are little channels, a network of channels in the skin. And it can actually retain up to 5 to 10 times more water than it would if the skin was completely flat like ours and wrinkle-free like me. I'm joking. We all do have natural wrinkles, of course. So yes, that's what it's designed for, so that the elephant can hold water in these wrinkles and it helps it to cool down. Reeve is asking, how often does an elephant take a bath? Now, I'm actually not sure how to answer that. It's not a regular thing on a daily basis. So it's not like you and I when we probably shower daily, or I hope that most of us shower daily. They don't need to do that. So this elephant here was just genuinely enjoying itself. It's alone. It's obviously wandered down to the dam and it is just enjoying being in the water, cooling down, cleaning off its skin, but it's not necessarily a daily requirement. Elephants also enjoy mud bathing, which is where they can pick up dry dust, dry mud with their trunk and spray it all over their body. And this also sort of helps them cool down, and it helps their skin. They obviously have really dry skin, which I just mentioned, and it can become quite itchy. There can be parasites. So by rolling around in the mud, it can actually help dislodge those parasites and also help itch the dry skin and cool down. So they don't have to take a bath daily. They just generally enjoy coming to water holes. Elephants like water, and they don't sweat like we do. So to cool down, they do have these huge ears, but that can't help them cool down completely. So that's why most of them travel to the water holes in order to help them cool down. So we finally found a croc. We were just talking about crocs and one has finally appeared. This one looks very large, actually. Now obviously you can't see the full body, so I can't estimate the size, but it's definitely an adult croc. and they can reach some lengths here. So most crocodiles do submerge, but most of the time they're like hippos. They tend to keep their eyes and their nostrils on the surface of the water so that they can see and smell around them. Now, the other day we were around Chitwa and we actually saw crocodile tracks all along the road. So they do walk on land as well. They're just not very good at it. They have very short... Oh, listen to that. They have very, very short legs, so they're not designed for running or speed on land. They're more suited for the water where they can sneak up on unsuspecting prey. Well, what a morning sighting that was. We might hang around here for a little bit longer and see what we can see. But for now, let's go across to Trishala and see what she has.
Hello everybody, I'm so glad to be with you today. It's me, it's Trishala, and I'm back in the hot seat, and I have for you some lions. Now, I think this is quite exciting because yesterday I had them as well, but I only had the 5 of them. So now we have a few more. It looks like there's about 7 or 8. I can't see clearly with this bush in my way. Maybe if you guys see how many they are, please tweet and let us know. #SafariLive, you know that. Blazing about. It's the typical midday activity for the lions. It's a very nice spot, I think. Shady. We're actually right near a little mud wallow if they were feeling a bit hot. Oh, that's a really nice time of day at the moment. Look at those pads of the feet there. So I can see that the animal that we're on right now must be the Mangeni male, because can you see the tuft of hair is missing at the bottom of his tail? And that would have just simply been as a result of his health deteriorating during the time. But it is slowly starting to come back. Can you see the tip? Or just before the tip, there's some hair starting to grow back. I must say he's looking much better than he did when I first, or just before I left. He was looking quite horrible then. But you're doing okay now. And I see that he's been, I say, semi-accepted into the Nkuhumas. Now he's back to back with the animals as if he's their best friend. But I did say yesterday in the morning, Amber Eyes snapped at him, gave him a snarl, was not too happy. But then again, she may be pregnant and hormonal, so might just be her. I always think it's such, and I suppose humans have it as well, but that urge to scratch or if something's on you, to shake it off. That urge is so natural, and you see it with these lions as well, especially. The flicks of the ears, the tail that constantly moves, the muscles that kind of vibrate a little bit as a response to something sitting on them. Flies and other such insects. Look at the ears. Twitch, twitch. Even the paws, twitch, twitch every now and then. I suppose you have to if you're lying out in the middle of the bush as your normal routine during the day. So let's actually count how many they are. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I see 7. I think there's one right behind here, just behind that bush. Now we do have other vehicles with us today. In fact, we have viewers, SafariLive viewers with us today in the vehicles in front of us. So they get to experience firsthand what we all see on your computers and online. I can't see who this is next to the Mangeni male. Matt says that they're making you sleepy. They'd make anybody sleepy. Look at this. They make you want to have cuddles and naps. Midday naps. Hello. Oh, look at the way it just collapses. That feels like what I'd like to do when I get back to camp. Didn't get the name. I didn't catch the name there. Oh, Hannah. Hannah asked if there's an alpha lioness within a pride. No, Hannah. The relationships and... Oh, Heather. The relationships that they and the bonds that they share are pretty equal. They all maintain a strong and secure. No worries, Nina. It was Hannah. The bond that they share is maintained at quite the same level between the females. So the one that we are looking at now appears to be the purple-eyed lioness. Hopefully she'll lift up her head and open her eyes, and then you can see exactly why. Look at the amount of bugs all over them. It's always interesting to see the pads of their feet. Because when you see the tracks, they are much bigger than you would expect. Or I suppose I don't know what you expect, but what I expect, they're much bigger. And they look, like sometimes I see them, or I see a leopard track, I'm like, oh, that's a big track. And then you see a lion track. It is huge. Look at that. That is the only area in their body where they can sweat from. Can you imagine if they're only losing heat through that area, they need to keep cool in other ways during the day, such as lying around and doing nothing in the shade of trees. I suppose they're standing up every now and then, lifting their heads and grooming. Gary would like to know if the lion that is sitting with or lying with the Mangeni male can get mange as well. Yeah, definitely that could happen. But the difference is the extent to which it would affect the lion. So the Mangeni male has had mange or the mange has affected him very badly. Whereas if he's just sitting next to the lion who doesn't have mange, and one of them might just jump out onto him, it is unlikely that he'll be as affected. But we have seen them scratching about, and we have seen little patchy bits of patchiness and insects all about as well, on the Nkuhuma lions, that is. So it can happen, and it will happen because it is very contagious, but the extent to which it happens is probably not going to be the same as the Mangeni male has experienced. I wonder if that is the Nkuhuma's male next to the Mangeni male, because I know that they... Ah, there's the male. They have been quite friendly recently, the two of them. The one lying next to him now. The lioness. That's quite nice to see. while I lie with these flat cats for a little bit, let me go over to Bushwalk and show you that they've found a really, really, really great insect for you.
Well, as you can see, we've got something that is very, very spectacular to see. It's not something we get to see every day at all. This butterfly has literally just hatched out of its cocoon, and it's still drying its wings at the moment. The wings, when we first got here, were just unfolding and starting to kind of stretch out, and they sit like this, and they'll wait until the wings expand a little bit, blood gets through it, or hemolymph gets through it, and they then dry out a little bit, and then they can start to fly. Now, this butterfly is an African vagrant. And it would have started its life not on a piece of grass like this. It would have started its life on a senna, which is a type of tree that's in the background area of where Seb is pointing at the moment. And then as a caterpillar, it would have crawled along, gotten to this area, spun its cocoon, and it's then been going through a process of change where it is now hatched into this beautiful butterfly that you see here. And you get these incredible kind of views of them when they like this, because they're not as flighty. Obviously, they can't fly too well just yet, and so if you want to see butterflies early in the morning when they hatch from their cocoons is the best time possible. And there's actually probably about 3 or 4 of them that we've found in this area. One has already flown off, and the other ones I think are still around and kind of sitting, trying to just dry out. But isn't that very cool? You can see it's still kind of figuring things out. The wind's giving it a bit of havoc at the moment and blowing it about. Those wings, as they kind of open out, obviously start to catch wind quite effectively, and so the poor butterfly will get blown around a little bit, but eventually everything will sort itself out and it will be able to take off and fly. Now, these butterflies are not the only ones that are out here at the moment. There's a number of other insects that we've got around us, which is very, very cool. So these guys kind of sit on the plants and they're waiting to do their thing. But there's other animals here that are incredibly busy, that are not just sitting around at all. And that is some harvester termites that are going crazy, and there's a whole bunch of them, and you can see here they all along the road going away from us at the moment. And you'll find that there's kind of ones that are carrying all little bits of materials back and forth to the nesting site where they're able to then take it down. And so harvester termites you'll find often carrying various things. Now, Paula, you're wondering about the butterfly. How long will the wings take to dry before it can fly? Not long. Probably within the next, I would say, 5-10 minutes, the butterfly will be flying already. The wings dry quite quickly, and then once they kind of can stretch them a little bit, it's a few flaps, and then off they go. The life cycle of a lot of these butterflies is not very long, and so they don't have much time to waste for the wings to actually dry up, and so you find it's quite a quick process. Now, the harvester termites themselves, well, they're very, very busy at the moment, so they're going back and forth, harvesting little bits of grass, as the name suggests, and then they carry it back to where they'll take it down into the mound, now into the sort of nest. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that they're actually going to plant fungus on a lot of this material, which will allow them to be able to feed off the fungus. You know, a lot of these guys also will try and feed off various little bits of this kind of plant, but because of the nature of plant material, it's very difficult to break it down, particularly the cellulose, and so it will take time for them to kind of do so. So it's a sort of hive of activity, and I'm surprised that they're still out. It's probably to do with the fact that it's overcast and cloudy. It's at the end of the day, it means that they can move around a little bit more. Generally, these guys try and do most of their work sort of at night more than during the day, because during the day they're very susceptible to predation through various animals that will be out here, from obviously different types of birds to all kinds of other insects that are around. So they try and do most of their activity under the cover of dark, but very, very cool to see. Now, the last insect I wanted to show you while we're standing here is probably my favorite insect that we get out here in the Sabi Sands. It is by far the most beautiful insect that we get, and I'm going to try and just see if I can get enough of it. It's kind of tucked in a white... Oh no, it's gone. Hold on, Seb. Here it is here. So we're just going to try and see if I can coax it up onto... There we go. So it is an absolutely beautiful little insect. Excuse my hands, they're all muddy from when we looked at that elephant tree, but this is what's called a rainbow shield bug. So for those of you who have never seen one of these guys, they are absolutely astounding in their coloration. They've got this kind of metallic green, purple blue sort of sheen with these orange abdomen and legs, and you'll find them quite common in the summer months. We see them quite a lot, and often on the whiteberry bushes. They'll move around on those, and then various sort of grass species you find them on as well. Quite an active little insect as well, move around quite a bit, so very, very cool to see. I'm glad that we found one. It's the first one I've seen this summer moving about. And now I believe a lot of you are happy that it's not a tick. Yes, so if ticks were crawling around on me, it would not be ideal at all. I'm sure we've picked up 1 or 2 ticks this morning during our walk, but in the most part, quite happy too. And these guys don't really secrete anything that will burn your skin or anything like that, so quite safe to kind of handle it, and to be able to kind of have them crawling around all over the place. But there we go, it's now decided to sit still, and you can actually get a sort of sense of those colors. And I'm a bit sad that there isn't any sun, because when the sun is out, the coloration on these guys is just that much kind of more vivid. At the moment it's sort of a bit dull and muted, because you know, the overcast skies gives you a much softer light than what the sun does. But you can see it's kind of all over the place. I'm going to probably put it back somewhere fairly shortly. But lots and lots of insects all around. This is what makes this sort of summer bushwalk so intriguing, is just how many different things there are around to be able to see and to look at, and especially things that are as beautiful as this. You know, a lot of people don't like insects, but when you see something with that kind of coloration, it's pretty spectacular. So we're going to put this guy back, and we're going to try and see if we can get it into a safe spot. And in the meantime, we're going to send you to something that is not nearly as beautiful as this one. I'm not talking about Lauren, but she has a little reptile to show you guys.
So not only is the dam full of, well, it was an elephant, hippopotami, crocodiles, we do have some terrapins. And I was rudely interrupted earlier by the signal. Of course, it decided not to work. So I'm just going to, we were talking about the difference. We're just going to look here between tortoises, sea turtles, and terrapins. Now, there we go, I'll try and hold it nice and still. Sea turtles are fully aquatic. I think I mentioned that. You won't see them on the land, whereas tortoises, like we saw them mating earlier, are terrestrial. So they're mainly based on land. They can go in the water though, but you will mainly find them walking about like we just did. And of course they mate on land, like we just saw, whereas turtles will mate in the ocean. Now, tortoises have clawed feet designed for traction and water on land. Walking on land, sorry, whereas turtles have flippers that are designed to sort of navigate their way through the ocean. So really similar animals, but actually also very different. Tortoises can retract their head and bring it right inside, whereas turtles cannot. They have a very flexible and wrinkly neck. It looks like they can retract their head in, but they actually can't. Now, tortoises are mainly vegetarian, so they will mainly eat the vegetation around here, whereas each different species of turtles actually has a completely different diet. So the hawksbill sea turtle, for example, that mainly eats sponges. The leatherback sea turtle mainly eats jellyfish, and the green sea turtle mainly eats seagrass. I'm just going to show you one more thing. That was what we actually spotted earlier, but we managed to get the event from behind. So we managed to see their backside, if you like. But here, you can see this is what we actually witnessed. This is 2 leopard tortoises mating. And you can see it's not an easy feat for the male. You can see by his lovely facial expression here, it's really not easy for him to clamber on top of the female and actually mate with her. So that's why his shell underneath is designed completely different from hers, because he's got to do a different function. So going back to these little terrapins over here, they're obviously closely related to the others because they're in the order Testudines, and they also are known to store sperm, which is exactly what I was saying earlier. So it is been shown in lots of different taxa within reptiles, to be honest, but it's most heavily studied within the Testudines, which is your turtles, your tortoises, and your terrapins. So one insemination from a male can actually be completely viable for reproduction. So they only need to mate once and they can fertilize their eggs. So it's just such a big question, and why they need to mate continuously and store different sperm. It's such a great survival technique, survival of the fittest and passing on their genetics, but it is just interesting to think exactly why they do it. There's also evidence in different clutches. I believe, again, this has been studied in turtles, sea turtles, where they have multiple paternity within the clutch. So they will lay different clutches of eggs that have been fathered by different males. So it's also worth thinking that this could be a sort of benefit for females to... How long can a female store sperm? That's one of the big questions, actually, and there is evidence that it can be longer than a year in some sea turtles. Now, obviously, they're bigger. They're much larger animals than this little terrapin here, so I'm not sure within relation to body size whether they can hold it for a little bit longer. They can definitely hold more, but as to how long they can hold the sperm, I'm really not sure. I know it is a really long time and it does go through different breeding cycles. Now, going back to that question why, there's a theory that it's thought for females to sort of cope with sexual coercion from the males. So let's go back to the sea turtle example. There will be one female in the water and so many males around her. They will all be competing for her, and it's actually really aggressive. The male will bite her flippers, they will fight with one another, and they actually hold onto her carapace with their flippers and they hold her down. Now, there'll be a mating couple and they will be surrounded by other males waiting to compete. Don't believe it's quite so as aggressive with terrapins, but this is indeed what happens with sea turtles. And the female does have that sort of, well, there is an element where she could drown. They do breathe air, they have lungs. So if the male keeps her down for too long, then indeed she could drown. So the fact that she does sort of store lots of different sperm from lots of different males, there's a theory that it could just be her survival technique to all the sort of male sexual coercion that she has to go through. So it could be like a compromise. Damage control, if you like, making the best of a bad job in response to male harassment. So that is one of the theories that goes on. Of course, there are many, but I just think it's completely fascinating that these type of reptiles are actually able to do this. So we'll let these terrapins be for a little while. We have been at Chitwa for some time, just observing everything that is going on. I'm just going to move for now. Anna Marie's asking something about sea turtles. Can you just repeat that for me, Nina, while I am carefully reversing across the damn wall? Imagine falling off this damn wall. That would be really something. Oh, how large can they get? Okay, I got you now. Well, that depends. There's actually 7 species worldwide, and they're all completely different. So 5 of them I have actually seen, and I believe the smallest is the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. So that is, I've never personally seen that sea turtle. It's found in a completely different region of the world than where I have been, but they are very, very small. Now, I am talking about this small from head to the back of the carapace, whereas the leatherback turtle, the largest of them all, which I have also not seen, unfortunately, gets up to about 2 meters in length from the tip of their beak to the end of their carapace. So that is indeed about 6 feet. So they are the largest, and all the other turtles sort of range in between. And these animals get incredibly heavy. I have actually rescued many a sea turtle, and there was one hawksbill sea turtle, and known as Ali Japo. We actually identify our sea turtles, so we know them individually, just like we know the animals here. And we were swimming with her one day, and she had a huge fishing hook in her neck. So she was swimming very slowly, very weak, and you could see the hook coming out of both sides. So we made a collective decision that we're going to actually get this sea turtle and try and rescue her. So it wasn't very easy to free dive down with no tank and sort of grab her by the nape of her shell, bring her up to the surface. Now, of course, they breathe air, so that's fine. And we took her straight to the sea turtle vet, who did an operation on her and some x-rays. I'll try and find the x-rays for you in a minute, and separate to remove the fishing hook, and luckily enough it hadn't pierced through the esophagus, so she was actually fine. We just closed up the hole, which was huge. The hook was about this size, much bigger than the palm of my hand, and she survived, and we released her, I think, a few weeks later. So these animals are incredibly heavy. Once we pick them up, it's almost impossible for me to pick up a turtle that size. So that was a nice turtle reptile little bit of information for you. But for now, let's go across to Tristan and see what he's got now in the grass.
Right, now we are, as you can see, sitting on the road at the moment, and we've came across something that's very, very interesting. So basically what we've got here is we've got a kind of burrow that's going down into the ground. Now that burrow will be for a scorpion. Now which scorpion species it is always a bit tricky, because you'll get both a Pisticanthus and a Pistothalmus that will have these little burrows like this and will go down. The thing is generally a burrow of a scorpion doesn't look like this. It's not excavated as round. Normally they have a sort of flat top to it like that, and the scorpion, because it's got a very flat body, goes in underneath and down into this chamber. So what's happened here is something like probably a white-tailed mongoose is what we guess. You can see on the edges over here has scraped and opened this all out and has gotten to the scorpion and has eaten the scorpion. And you can see, because right next to it, there we go, is the scorpion's pincer that is left over. And so this has been excavated out. The scorpion, unfortunately, has been eaten, and this is what is left of the remains. There's a few ants now that are just cleaning up what's inside of that exoskeleton. But judging by the size of the pincer and the sort of coloration, I would say probably a Pisticanthus. Pisticanthus has a much darker pincer than what you see on Pistothalmus, although difficult really to say. I mean, I suppose it could be either one, essentially. But this was probably in all likelihood killed last night or the night before, and it was then, like I say, this was just discarded off. This is often what you see with mongooses. They break the pincer, particularly in these scorpions that rely heavily on their pincers, that are not too venomous. They'll break the pincers off, and then they just basically eat the scorpion from there, because this is what's going to hurt them the most. Also, when they're teaching their young, they will teach them how to break off the pincers and then the tail, and then eat it, and eventually the young work it out. So it's a little crime scene, unfortunately. That poor scorpion did not make it out of this area at all. Now, Seb, do you need a hand up? Seb is being very dexterous, considering he's got a dodgy knee at the moment. But it's very cool to see that particular thing. It's not something you see all that often, where you can actually find a bit of the scorpion at the entrance to a burrow that's been excavated. And I think that poor scorpion must have just put its kind of burrow in the worst possible place, where on roads is never the greatest, because lots of traffic of civets and mongoose and genets and the likes. Oh, Jasper, tricky. I'm not sure I have a favorite insect. There's a few that I really like. These rainbow shield bugs are one of my absolute favorites, just from a kind of beauty perspective. I just think the amount of coloration that's on that insect is unbelievable. So I really enjoy them. Then, for some reason, jumping spiders, I find their faces to be super cute. They have these massive big eyes and kind of move around all over the place. So I think they're absolutely awesome. So they're one of my sort of favorite insects. Just trying to think what else that I really enjoy kind of watching. Oh, the chafers. So some of the chafer beetles. The regal fruit chafer is a beautiful emerald big beetle like this that is bright emerald with these whites. So I like the kind of colorful ones. Those are some of my favorites that we see here. When we go out of this, I think probably one of my favorite insects is the giraffe-necked weevil out of Madagascar. I just think it's an absolutely amazing kind of creature with this long kind of neck that it uses for fighting and for all kinds of other things, and it only occurs in Madagascar, so they're very, very cool. I suppose the butterflies too. I'm a big fan of butterflies as well. I like the color that they bring into the bush. So lots, really. I don't have an absolute kind of only one that is my favorite. There's a few insects that I enjoy spending time around, and certainly those that are more brightly colored and have a bit of kind of flair to them generally are the ones that grab my attention. I'm pretty sure there's insects that I would love to see see that. But so one of our Nico viewers is asking if scorpions are related to crabs. So, wait, what's Herbie pointed in? We'll get to that question now, but Herbie's just found something that he wants to show us. What have you got here, Herbie? Looks like a little kind of cocoon / nest of something. Just trying to have a little look quickly. So while we just try and figure out what this is, definitely a cocoon. So essentially, scorpions and spiders are all land-based creatures that are invertebrates, much like crabs are, I suppose. They also don't have an internal sort of skeleton. They have an exoskeleton. So they are distant relations, but not part of the arachnid family. So, I mean, I suppose scorpions also not hugely, I suppose they're closer to spiders than what crabs are. But a crab is a crustacean and spiders are, like I say, arachnids. So they're not that close, but I suppose in some ways have some similarities in that they have exoskeletons, legs, and they pretty much referred to as kind of the spiders of the sea. So scorpion maybe not as much as spiders in terms of how they kind of see each other. But I'm not sure what this is in terms of this little cocoon. This cocoon could be for anything really. It's very tricky to know exactly what's inside there. I have no idea. You can see there's been some leaf parts that have been eaten away by this particular caterpillar before it started to go into its cocoon. And so we'd have to probably sit and wait and hope that eventually something will kind of come out and you'll get some sort of insect or moth. I would imagine moth is what I would go for on this particular one. It is on a wealth area, so it could be something else. There's a lot of different insects that feed off it, but just given the kind of eating of this leaf and the way that it looks, I would say it's probably some sort of moth species. Good, well, we're going to carry on. We're going to head off down the road. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Trish.
Yes, and thank you so much to Bushwalk team for sending us here. They saw them on foot, which I think must be a really, really spectacular experience to see these guys on foot. And yep, they would have been following tracks made by those very feet right there. Those paws. See the little flies landing all over it. See how the other can benefit from the swishing tail of another. Chase away those flies. So look at those bellies. They don't look particularly full at this point. And we are really hoping that they catch something. We did mention yesterday that they were hungry. And we knew that there was a buffalo herd around the day before. Now, clearly they didn't get any. As far as we know, they didn't get any. And from the way they look, they definitely haven't eaten yet. I think we have 10 here at the moment, so they're going to need a nice big kill to satisfy them all. Now, the Inkahumas have kind of specialized, I suppose, in hunting buffalo, which is a huge animal. And I think buffalo is a great one for them to feed the 10 of them, and so would be giraffe. But they haven't really I haven't know of them hunting giraffe. Riley would like to know if lions generally take naps at the same time. Well, Riley, from what I've seen, that definitely seems to be the case. It either happens in the same spot, or like yesterday we saw some of them are napping by us in Juma, and we know that some of them were in Arathusa. And if I had to take a guess what the few of them that were in Arathusa were doing, I'd say napping at that time of day, definitely. This is their normal behavior, their daytime behavior. Even when we went back in the afternoon and we saw that they had moved from the morning, yesterday. It seemed odd because they don't usually move about very much during the day. This is the hottest part of the day and the time where it doesn't make sense for them to be out too much. They'd rather be out when it's cooler and darker and they have the advantage. Look at all of those. It must be quite irritating to have pests all around you constantly. I suppose that's why they have thick fur. Kerpal would like to know how close I've been to a lion on foot. I haven't had lions on foot yet. I've had Hosanna and Tingana on foot, and that was really, really spectacular. But I haven't had lions on foot. I would imagine that it's something quite outrageous. But my day will come for lions on foot, definitely. Well, lovely Lauren has some vultures in a tree. Maybe that's promising for these guys. Maybe there's something that's a bit sick hanging around and they can capitalize on that. Anyway, let's go.
So as we left Chitwa Dam, we have came across two white-backed vultures sitting at the top of this dead tree here. Now, it's always interesting when you see the vultures because normally they are on the lookout with their incredible eyesight for potential food, which can come in the form of a carcass normally. Oh, what is this one doing here? I think it was having a little clean of itself. It's opened up its wings here. It's currently biting or itching a spot on its shoulder, I think. There we go. Yes, it's having a good old preen in the morning, a morning preen. So vultures can be a sign that there is something around, generally if there's more than one of them and they are sort of looking in the same direction. However, these two seem to both just be scanning separately, cleaning, going about their morning routine, doing their thing. So it's quite a good indicator that they're not actually the sign of any carcass or any kill nearby. They're probably just waiting on the sun getting a little bit higher so they can ride the thermals. They're not great flyers. They do rely on the air thermals to sort of get their lift in order to get really, really high up in the air, and then they can see all around them. They've got incredible eyesight and they can see for miles and miles and miles, which is the tricky part because you don't actually know if they are nearby a kill. It's a little bit difficult to determine where that kill is because they can see so far away. But they're actually really beautiful birds. I really admire vultures. You can see them from a mile away. They really stand out against the background. They're very large animals, and they're very confident animals. I've seen vultures in standoffs with lions, all sorts of big cats. They're really not afraid. They obviously need to get into the carcass, so if there is a lion or a leopard nearby, they're not afraid to stand up to them, that's for sure. Now this one's still having a really good clean. Look at that flexible neck, and that head doesn't have much feathers. MGM is asking, do vultures bath in water? Yes, I got that one right for a change. They have been known to go near water, but they are obviously not water birds. They can actually preen themselves and clean themselves without water. So they have a sort of special gland on their back that produces oil, and by using their beak, which this bird is doing here, it's got a really flexible neck, they're able to sort of reach over and use this oil to cover their coating, which sort of protects them also gets rid of any sort of dirt or parasites that in among their feathers. They don't need water to do that. And what I was actually just about to say is that if you look at the head, particularly in this vulture here, there isn't those fluffy feathers that you can see. They start about the neckline, if you like. And there's actually quite a few different theories as to why vultures don't have feathers on their head. And one of them is that they put their heads in carcasses and all sorts of disgusting things where it can be covered in blood and in all sorts, shall we say. So by not having feathers here, it's much easier for the birds to keep clean, as they're not able to clean their own heads, of course. They would need water to do that. But the other theory is for thermoregulation, if I can pronounce that correctly this morning. Thermoregulation. So when it does get really hot, the fact that they don't have the feathers on their head can actually help to keep the bird cooler. So there is sort of different theories, but the fluffy feathers, if you like, start around the neck. So it's almost like a scarf, and this also helps keep the birds warm when it's cold. So there's different opinions on why vultures don't have feathers on their head, and it could even be a combination of them, both of these reasons. It doesn't have to solely be one of the reasons. So they can clean themselves without water, MGN, but they are known to also dip in the water as well. So we're going to head on from here. We're going to see what else we can find. So for now, let's go across to Tristan and see what he's up to.
As you can see, we're continuing with our sort of insect morning, and with one of the more sort of beautiful butterflies that we see, and they are very common in this area, quite tricky to get on camera. Seb has had to do some stalking to get close, and so it's a yellow pansy, and that you can see has got its back towards the sun, towards the sort of east, as it tries to again dry out from the dew and things that have come out during the course of the night. You'll find that these guys often get quite damp, and then they sit and they'll actually try and dry off, and they'll turn their backs to the sun itself when they do so. But very, very pretty little butterfly. It's got that kind of black and yellow coloration with those little blue spots in it. And it's one of the few butterflies that will actually sit with its wings open. There's not that many of them that we see. The guinea fowl butterfly, the blue pansy, yellow pansy, most of the butterflies we see will sit with their wings closed up. And that's generally from a camouflage point of view. These guys, obviously have bright colors and will sit kind of out in the open. And yellows and blacks are often a good sign that they're not the most tasty butterflies, and so that's why they can afford to sit with their kind of coloration showing and be as sort of bright and out there as they are. And unfortunately, as soon as we kind of move a little closer, though, it's going to fly away, which is not ideal. But the butterflies this morning have been good. We've had the vagrants, we've had a few monarchs fly past, dark web ringlets were around earlier, the pansies that have been around as well. So quite a few different species. I'm still waiting for mass amounts of crias. We haven't seen too many of them yet. So things like the wandering donkey, window cria, little cria, those are all kind of ones that we're waiting to see. We haven't seen too many of them as yet. I wonder if we can get a little closer, Seb. Let's see if we can try. Such a pretty butterfly there. And you can see it's quite twitchy. If you move, it kind of twitches and it takes off quite fast. It's a butterfly that is very aware of its environment. Probably got a really nice set of eyes on there, and so it's able to determine when something approaches and will then move quite quickly. But there's 2 spots, or 4 spots actually, that you see, and not only are those to serve as an aposematic coloration between sort of black and yellow, but they also almost look like eyes if you look at it. So it looks like this butterfly has kind of got 4 eyes on the back of its wings, and that will also deter predators from kind of coming close. So it's got a kind of a dual purpose effect on those particular sort of markings. But seriously pretty little thing. Oh, there it goes. It was going to fly eventually, Seb. Don't worry. Right, now the other bit of interesting thing, I just want to check one thing before I get into what I was going to show you. It's just a leaf. Is it a leaf or is it a moth? No, it's a moth. I thought I saw something white inside there. So there we go. There's a moth that is inside. Maybe from here, Seb, where I'm standing, will be a bit better. We've got a much clearer gap there of a beautiful, beautiful moth that is, again, much like the rest of them, sunning themselves and probably trying to camouflage. You'd imagine that sitting like that will almost look a little bit like a bird dropping on a leaf, and so probably get left alone if it sits like this. What species of moth it is, I'm really not sure. The amount of moth species that we get in South Africa is quite astronomical. I think it's something like, I can't even remember what the figure was. It's over 20,000 different species or something stupid like that occurs in South Africa. So knowing all of the moths is almost possible. What I really interested was this little list, and actually saying, you guys do this, but essentially what I've got here is the exoskeleton for a mantis, a praying mantis, and you can see obviously the legs. There's the sort of abdomen area coming forward to the eyes, and here's those sort of front legs that gives it its name that they hold up, and you can actually see the spikes on there. I'm going to try and just see if I can open it a little bit. They're often quite fragile, so I don't want to break it. It's tricky. Let's try and get remember, these are incredible praying mantis. Of course, the insects that grow and those
Fine, you can do it while we learn.
Hello, hello. Sorry about that. I am just going to reposition quickly. Now that the lovely female who decided to look at me just as I said, "Why are you looking at us?" And then she licked her lips. So that's why I've got to get a little closer to you, I think. Sorry. Maybe just a little bit more like that. There we go. Still sitting around. Still having a very unproductive weekday. That's what I say. Oh, that looks so uncomfortable. I'm sure that those flies actually benefit from this, the sludge and so on that's around their eyes. Sleepy, sleepy female. So she just decided to lick her lips and look straight at me, just like that. But then she got up and moved. This is actually a very, very peaceful sighting. You can actually hear the sounds of the bush. Wonderful. And they're sitting under the most beautiful tambuti I have seen in a long time. Really, really nice. All twisted between its branches. Come on, cats. Maybe lift up a head for us. Open your eyes. No, no. They're dreaming about the dinner they want to catch tonight. If I was sitting in this spot in the bush with all these sounds going on and under this tambuti, I think I'd also be asleep. So remember we were speaking about whether they would get mange from the Mangeni male, obviously. Well, the little patches that you're seeing of darkness, well, basically are little patches of mange, and the flies are kind of attacking those areas or going after those areas because the fur's gone, and the fur obviously protects them, just like our hair does, from insects and other such things landing on them or are really affecting their skin. Now you get these patches of fur that's gone, and it gives direct access to these insects to come and feed off whatever they like in those areas. But lions, like most animals, have a certain load of pests that they can deal with, and I think that the Nkahumas can deal with this load at the moment. We were speaking about stress earlier, and the amount of stress the Mangeni males may have experienced or experience compared to how much the Nkuhumas do at the moment. And we spoke about the Nkuhuma pride together being quite healthy and them not having to really, well, they don't have any chronic stress going on. There may be little bouts of stress, but not constantly. Whereas the Mangeni males, having traveled out of their natal pride, now have a sort of prolonged stress associated with, finding food, finding mates, finding territories, all those things. So that might also contribute to the extent of their mange, as you can see right there. That's probably why they are in such much better condition at the moment. Giraffe Girl says lions will move on lion time. Yes, they will, because they are the kings of the jungle, kings and queens actually, and anything goes by their time. They wait for nobody and move for nobody. Oh. Look at that. Still not. I mean, if you remember what the Mangeni males used to look like, it was actually quite sad. All of them looked very bad at one point, and I really did think that they would be on their way out. But I think being included in the pride now allows them to decrease some of that stress. They have to work a little less hard. Maybe they're now getting a bit of affection, and that all counts for something. Wow. Considering all the flies, you'd think that they smell very, very bad. But they don't. One thing that does smell very bad is their poo, though. That is quite something. Shame. I think the amount of insects is also compounded by the various mounds of poo around here that they all seem to be lingering on and then flying back onto the lions. Lazy, lazy Thursday. Oh, so last night we had our viewer visit, which was very nice. We got to meet all of them. And we, I'm looking forward to the same thing after drive. Bit of a lazy few hours between afternoon drive and now. Well, let's go to Tristan on Bushwalk, who has found a really, really beautiful something for you. Sorry about that. The beautiful something is still these guys. No, it's a small problem there, but all good. Like I was saying, lazy day for us today. Well, we should be as lazy as this. It's also quite interesting to know that yesterday when we left them in the afternoon, there were 5? Yeah, there were 5 of them. And now there are 10, as far as I can see. Yeah, there's 10. So it also makes me wonder why they moved back here. Maybe they feel there's a potential for a meal here more than there is in Arathusa at the moment. I don't know. But it's nice to see that they've all come back so we can have a view of them. Sleepy lions, what will you do this evening? You'd never think that these guys lying there like that are the ones that are going to be the kind of the beasts of the night later on. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait for you to come and see us again in the afternoon. Have a great day and please tune in later. Thank you again. Bye.